with in collaboration with the uh, Sustainable Sarhad Conservation Network. So this is a joint effort, and as you know that the topic itself talks about, and then we have recently seen floods, and we have seen big logs are coming up from upward. So we have to also, I would request that we need to look at it. Who has logged it? The logs were there, they were coming down. Who owned that? So what is the process? That would be the thing which will come under discussion. And I would not take much time because I was just to introduce and welcome you. And then Khalid Khan will moderate. You will moderate it. And before that, I would just request Shafkat Kaka Khel Sahab, Ambassador Shafkat Kaka Khel, Chairman Board of Governance, SDPI, to welcome Tariq Banori Sahab as Chair and Speaker. Yeah.
Well, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you all at this meeting, National Expert Consultation on the Protection of the Natural Resources of Pakistan. And my hope is that in the context of the protection of the natural resources of Pakistan, we will focus on the ongoing wanton destruction, ongoing destruction of the forest resources in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Gilgit-Balochistan, which has become absolutely grave. And this morning I opened the newspaper, and the newspaper talks about the unearthing of a major scandal in which as many as 120 officials of the Forest Department are involved. And so that, and they're talking about a figure of 1.7 billion. Actually, it is, in my view, it's absolutely ridiculous to calculate the price, the value of forests in terms of money, because how do you estimate the value of a tree which provides benefit for decades, benefits of all kinds? It's absolutely impossible, and I think a wasteful exercise to indulge in that. In any case, so I hope that although at the moment the nation's attention is preoccupied with the terrible floods that have ravaged Pakistan, and like the 2022 and earlier on the 2010. But there is a link. There is a link between what the main topic of our discussion is and the damage and destruction caused by climate change induced monsoonal precipitation. So I hope you all will focus. I was not going to say so much, and I thought my job was to extend a very, very warm welcome to the founder of this institution, Dr. Tariq Banori, who I was able to persuade to come and join us. I'm also happy to see people like Shakil Durrani and others and Dr. Rafiq, of course, the most valued expert that we have. Adil Zarif is a brother, a friend, and a fellow in the battle. So, Dr. Tariq Banori, I welcome you to chair our meeting and guide the deliberations of this expert meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Shafkat Saab, and thank you, Shafkat for inviting me. In my lexicon, the role of a chair is mainly decorative. So I will try to be as decorative as I can within limits, जो कुछ है वो हाजिर है, and not take up much of your time. I might give some concluding remarks at the end, having been associated with some of these discussions for over 35 years. So without further ado, I would like to call on Dr. M. Rafiq, a dear friend from very, very long time ago, Sarhad Provincial Conservation Strategy, the Forest Department of KP, and then working internationally on the same forestry and grain issues. Rafiq sir, may I ask you to give your presentation?
थोड़ा सा हाँ a little अगर आपकी इजाजत हो सर
Sir.
थोड़ा सा अब
ताले साहब जरा इसको थोड़ा सा
हाँ मैं अगर आप इजाजत हो सर थैंक यू वेरी मच जी मैं
ताले
डॉक्टर
साहब
खान
मॉडरेट कर रहे हैं आप चलते हैं
हाँ,
and पे
So,
बहुत
बिल्कुल ही
कमेंट-
decorative.
सर
आप नहीं आपसे हमने बहुत सारी चीजें सुननी है।
You've done your.
अब आप सर रिलैक्स्ड हो जाए So, Assalamu alaikum ji. So, I am the General Secretary of Sustainable Conservation Network. May I now invite Adil Zarif Saab to say a few words and introduce Sustainable Conservation Network. For those who may not be knowing us, he is the best person to tell us how it was its genesis and how we have now come so far to this place.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. The chair, Tariq Banoori Saab, and Shafkat Kaka Khel, the esteemed Secretary of Forest of KP, Shahid Zaman, I think everybody by now in Pakistan knows his name, an upright and principled bureaucrat. We have Himayatullah Khan Saab here, and also we are graced by Shakil Durrani Saab. We are very honored by their presence, as well as Rafiq Saab. Sustainable Conservation Network, formerly it was called the Sarhad Conservation Network, right under the leadership of IUCN way back in 2001, when IUCN launched the Sarhad the Sarhad Conservation Strategy. I have to remind the audience that after the National Conservation Strategy, KP took the lead to make or to have a Sarhad conservation strategy, and Shakil Durrani and those in that period was the chief secretary. And all these illustrious gathering here, we have the IUCN lead players. Rafiq Saab was heading that. We had Gul Najam Jami Saab, who's also amongst this. So the all IUCN team, Khalid Khan, and Shakil Durrani, obviously being a chief secretary, he led this to a very successful, a very inclusive, very comprehensive strategy, which is gathering dust in the KP bureaucracy. The irony of all this is that KP leading this conservation way back 20 years back now is on the brink of disaster because of deforestation. So that's the most heartbreaking realization कि कहाँ पे हमारे ब्यूरोक्रेट शकीर साहब थे, उसके बाद और luminaries थे, ये थे हमारे IUCN के हेड कर रहे थे, and even Shafkat Kaka Khel, who had been always giving us support way back when he was an ambassador. And we were on the pinnacle of conservation. KP had the best forests, and we are such a realization after 30 years what we have done to ourselves. So that is all I have to say. Anyway, I am very grateful to Shafkat Kaka Khel. It's a very enabling environment here in SDPI. And again, I have to recall in 2003, during the period, when the deforestation was at its very height, all the merged districts of KP, Hazara, Malakan, the merged was under the massive tree felling and logging. We raised this issue here at SDPI 2023, and we had asked Shari Rahman to chair it as usual. She's always out on the globe trotting होती हैं, वो आई नहीं. लेकिन ये हुआ कि उन्होंने एक letter लिखा. She wrote a letter to she said this is a provincial thing. How can I interfere? Then we had to tell her, ये तो provincial नहीं है, regional है. And she wrote a letter to the KP government that this is a very serious issue what the deforestation. She took notice of it. उसके बाद सुना है कि वो जो सेक्रेटरी जो इन्वॉल्व थे, जो अभी फिर बहुत चर्चे हैं उनके, तो वो उस वक्त भी उसमें थे. सो माय फाइनल मेरी गुजारिश ये होगी कि हाँ तो बातें बहुत कर लेते हैं, गुफ्तम शुनीदम बर्खास्तम ना हो. We should some actionable plans here, and Khalid Saab in the end will give recommendations. And I think not only about forests, but accountability should be on top of the agenda. Thank you very much for your time. Over to you, Khalid Saab.
Thank you for highlighting the role of civic and expert network in this mission. Adil, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the crossroads of deforestation, rainland degradation, and wildlife are not environmental issues. They are a serious threat to the national climate security of Pakistan. So we are here now not only to identify the challenges, but also like formulate a set of recommendation end of the day as an outcome of this great effort that we all are gathered to do. So when we were organizing this meet, I was looking around. Dikshu, Adil? So I was looking around if I can find some people who are best at cloning, because we need cloning expert to give us more Shahid Zaman that we have in the system. So who can put up fight and their number can be multiplied. Such people are now in short supply in the system. I'm going to now invite Shahid Zaman Saab, who is our first keynote speaker and is a career bureaucrat who embodies integrity and service, currently serving as Secretary for Climate Change, Forest, Environment and Wildlife in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, is known for exposing now timber scandals, blocking shady deals, and standing firm against the powerful mafias. So hats off to you, sir. A true naturalist at heart, he views forest as ecosystem vital for survival, not commodities for exploitation. Please join me in welcoming Shahid Zaman Saab, our hero for the meet today, sir.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much for having me here, Ji. And I think it's just the right kind of time to hold such a session as has been held, as is being held. As is being held today. So we've seen a lot of unfortunate incidents that have taken place in the last 3 weeks vis-a-vis the rains in KPK, and then the unfortunate loss of life, the unfortunate loss of property, cattle, and so on and so forth. And the fact that all of that death and destruction, though one wished it hadn't happened, has basically put forth the whole thing to the fore regarding how much environmental degradation has happened, and either the lack of or the weakness of governance in the past years have gotten together with the degradation that has happened in the forested areas, in the rangelands, and in the watershed areas, and how the two put together have wreaked havoc with people's lives. So I think it's as unfortunate as it is, but I think it's time for us all to wake up. This has to be a 360 all of government, all of society approach. It's easy to say those things, not very easy to get them going, get everyone on board, and to certainly improve governance in a third world country. So it has to be incremental, and it has to be stepwise, but the most important thing is that there has to be a society level, state level awareness of the fact that if you carry on going like this, this is just a trailer. It's going to happen every year. It's going to happen in different seasons. Sometimes you're going to have lack of snow. Sometimes you're going to have more snow that you need. Sometimes there's going to be no melting. At other times there's going to be over melting, and slowly and gradually your food security, your overall temperatures, etc., they're all going to go for a 6. And this is not a this is not an academic exercise anymore, that we can all sit in our offices and send letters to each other or just hold conferences on. It has to be there has to be a very, very serious approach to all these matters, whether they're matters of governance, whether they're matters of accountability, or whether there's matters of reforestation, afforestation, or to pick up long forgotten and long overlooked areas like range management, for example, um, and watershed management, on which a lot of work has been done, but it's very straightforward for me to refer to range management, which has completely been ignored in the last, I mean, at least since I've been in service, over the last 3 decades. And I've now had the opportunity to serve in 3 provinces. And unfortunately, in all those provinces, range management and alpine pasture management or subalpine pasture management, it's all been, unfortunately, been ignored for the last 3 or 4 decades. So long forgotten areas have to be picked up. They're mentioned in this paper over here also, in the policy note. Then there are other very, very fine and very focused areas mentioned. I'll just refer to each of them very briefly before I give the mic to those who know more about these things. Basically speaking, in the last, if we pick up from 2014, when the first big push started towards going green, which was under Imran Khan Saab's PTI government in the KP with the billion tree tsunami program. It was a well-designed program. It was a focused program. It basically focused on getting the society moving, getting the degraded forests, the forest degradation issue be addressed, and at the same time, a massive level of plantation activity. And then there was some wildlife activity as well. In time, we then got the Green Pakistan / 10 billion tree program, which is now again coming in, inshallah. It's already been approved by ECNEC, so we've got that, which is going to be until 2000. It's a 5-year program, so from now until the next 5 years, in all the provinces of Pakistan. So basically speaking, I mean, these programs, the Billion Tree Plus, the Billion Tree program, the 10 billion tree program, now we've got the Billion Tree Plus program of the KP government that's coming up. The 10 billion is now coming back, now being called the Green Pakistan program once again. And then we have the BTA, SP, and our ADP programs. So 2 or 3 things to share with you. Number one, what we intend to do and what we have learned from our experience of the last 11 years and my personal exposure of 3 provinces. The first and foremost thing is that we have to look at the standing forests. It's all very good to go for plantation activity, farm forestry. I mean, those are required, those are a must. They replenish and they save the forests. The more trees that farmers have, the less trees will have to be cut from the forests for their daily needs. So that's number one. But we have to go back into the forests, the standing forests, and see where the degradation has happened. So we're conducting a study. We started a study on that, a satellitic imagery study. What has happened to the forests in the last 10 to 20 years? So we're taking a timeline study of starting 20 years back. I'd be very happy to share that here with you once it's done, inshallah. I think it'll show us a lot of the gap areas. So A, it'll tell us where we stand. B, it'll tell us what the journey has been like, and C, it'll tell us how to structure our future programs, the BTAP Plus, and hopefully also the Green Pakistan / TBT program. So the 3 advantages that we can gather out of that. That's one. As far as forestry management is concerned, we've got Ali Gaur Khan sitting over here, long-time forester. So I think he can shed more light on it. But what I've learned is that as far as forest management is concerned, that requires very deep engagement with the communities. Unless and until we have the communities on board, forest management you really can't achieve much, unfortunately. And there are many cases in which where community needs are being catered for or catered to, and the results are better, and where they have been either sidelined or overlooked or pushed under the carpet, then the results, the situation on ground speaks for itself. So community needs have to be looked into, standing forests have to be looked into, range management, a completely neglected area, has to be looked into. We have put some programs for range management into our ADP this time. So inshallah, this is going to be the first time after a long time. I'm sure it's been done before, but this time we've put in, after a long time, we brought programs for range management. Plus, we're talking to the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank, and we are progressing in our talks with them. And we made range management as one of the pivots of our engagement, of a 10-year engagement, inshallah, with these organizations through expertise and financial injection. So these are some of the important areas, and of course, accountability and monitoring is extremely important. There's a lot of negative press against what we in forestry called as harvesting, and I've had to answer a lot of questions regarding harvesting, issues related to harvesting. It is perhaps something we have to accept that harvesting, where it is, if conducted scientifically, if conducted with integrity, and if conducted with the right focus, is something that is advisable, something that is done all over the world, and something that of course provides all kinds of benefits to society. And I'm talking about harvesting for the market. Obviously, there's the second part to it, which is the community usage. So both have their advantages, but obviously, again, the question of governance and the question of accountability, which is part of any good governance system, is extremely important and pivotal. In that regard, you may have seen a report that's come out, a newspaper article that has come out today. We conducted an 8-month-long, still continuing monitoring exercise for all the areas that had harvesting going on, and we found some interesting results. We have a one-pager on it. I can share it. About 45% of all the harvesting activity was found to be in good order, which was a very, very heartening news to be given, and it's all documented. So there's no exaggeration about it. Then about another 26%, 25%, between 25 and 26% of the harvesting activity was found to have minor aberrations, which were basically procedural and process oriented. That was another good set of news. But then there's the last 30%. And unfortunately, in the last 30%, we found major gaps. And those are the ones that have been reported upon in the newspaper also. It's a completely transparent exercise. The record is available. The documents are available. The timber has not been allowed to leave those areas. And as we start taking the next step towards accountability of those responsible, whether they are owners of forests or whether they are officers and officials of our department, I can assure you, inshallah, action will be taken and it will be seen. So all of these matters are all matters that are intertwined. How much capacity do we have to be able to understand the state and nature of our forests? That's number one. How well can we program and structure our projects for the improvement of forests and the wilderness in general? We of course treat forests and wildlife together because one is the abode of the other. And then of course the most important question comes forth is the governance factor. Governance factor, obviously, overall in the country, unfortunately, it has slid down the ladder, as far as governance is concerned. We are also a victim of that. There's so many reasons that we don't need to go into why governance has gone down to a level from which it really needs to be pulled up again. Otherwise, we are at a very dangerous abyss. We're on a cliff right now. So these are all matters that we're looking into. These are all matters that need to be very seriously considered. And I can assure you that the KP government stands firmly behind us. The Chief Minister Sahab stands firmly behind us in this endeavor. And as we move forward, and if we, inshallah ta'ala, get the time, I certainly hope that with the support of the media, with the support of the civil society, because this is not a task that we can do on our own. Where we stand today, a lot of it is, thanks to the civil society, support of the civil society. So in partnership, let's move together forward with international organizations, with experts, past and present, and the civil society, and of course the media. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your principled and inspiring vision for ecological governance. We all know that each tree that we have in the world equals to amounting to 7 air conditioners of purification of air. Currently, only 42.3% of the greenhouse gases that we leave into the air are actually managed by the forests in the world, which is less than what is required. Last year, we released 41.6 billion tons of greenhouse gases into the air, though we were not part of it, but we are heavily affected. And what we have seen very recently is a trailer of what is to come in the next 4 or 5 years. Now, to shed their expert view on the forest and forest management and the issues that are allied to it, our next speaker, who's the first expert speaker, is Muhammad Rafiq Sahab, a forester and development expert, very well known across the world. He remained country director of IUCN Pakistan, has decades of experience in forestry, environment, and climate change, both nationally and internationally. And he's going to reflect on how misguided policies have undermined forest science and what urgent corrections are needed. Sir, please.
Thank you, Khalsa. Is somebody putting up the slides for me? And I'll indicate to you when to move slides up, please. Appreciate your help.
हो गया सर, हो गया।
Well, the presentation is being loaded in to save time. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. My feeling is of being overwhelmed, honored, and humble. Being surrounded by so many of you my mentors, many of you my colleagues. I think I know almost everybody in the room except a few that I had the privilege to work with, but also I'm aware that it puts a responsibility on me today. So I will be candid, and I will hopefully change or challenge, I can't change, but challenge some of the very basic notions of forestry in this country and in KP, and with the hope that they inform the future. I think you will also find it interesting. My presentation, basically, I'm going to address 3 myths, and I'm going to reveal a mystery. I think it's still a mystery to most of you. अच्छा वो मैनेज कर, वहां से मैनेज कर, उसको पहले उसके ले आए, शुरू से कर रहा हूँ।
तो इनको दे देना अगर ये यही करना है तो दे देना।
Okay, so three myths and one mystery. First myth is that forest cover has increased and deforestation is offset. So what is the problem? Why are people crying about it? On the slide that is in front of you, there is evidence from the World Bank, from the FAO, from the Global Forest Watch, that forest in Pakistan, the natural forests have definitely decreased. So if anybody denies that, it's not useful at best. The forest, the green, sorry. It's not only which the international organizations say. Pakistan National Forest Policy itself admits at the national level, rate of deforestation is estimated at 27,000 hectares per year. This is in the National Forest Policy. But to add to it, in Sindh, Sindh's Secretary Forest submitted before the Supreme Court on December 1, 2017, that Sindh has lost 75% of its riparian forest. And in KP, Shaitan Sahab knows, we all know the story of Mankyal Guzara and the Galiat forest. But these are smaller ones. There has been deforestation and which has been uncovered and being addressed at the moment is much bigger and more alarming. But then it is also possible not just possible, actually visually, as you drive around through KP, there is a very strong evidence that forest plantations have indeed increased. Hazara is greener in the valley, in the foothills. It's definitely greener in Swat. It is greener elsewhere as well. It's probably the same case in other provinces. There are more mangrove forests. But the notion that forest has increased and therefore deforestation is offset and it's not better, that's what I want to challenge. This picture that you see is actually from Bunair floods recently. I just captured a snapshot from one of the video. I want to show here that in the near that you see, these are the eucalyptus plantations, which you see a lot of time in the foothills, which has been done. But if you see the distant mountain behind, you see it is completely free of trees. And that is where the problem, what people say, what is the problem? This Bunair is all reforested, but what is not reforested is the Ilam, for example. The mountain behind Bunair, which makes the watershed of both Swat River and the Bunair. And again, just to show, this is a snapshot of forest in Babusar, in Kagan Valley, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and now. And you don't need more evidence to see how forests on the mountains themselves have disappeared. So I think I don't need to see more to that. The second myth is that deforestation is being wrongly blamed for the climate change and the catastrophic floods. So I have seen press, I have seen some of the colleagues talking about and say, there was in fact an article, and I'll mention it later in my presentation. And this is also really problematic, because in this slide I have shown just one thing, which shows that, and this was a point Shakil Saab at some point made in one of the discussions, that replacing high hill natural forest with plantations does not offset in any way the natural forest and the role they play. These two slides, and for those of you who are a forester, they will better recognize. If you look at the right picture, how does a snow avalanche start? It starts from the top of the mountain, which is a lot of time flat. And because of the wind, the snow accumulates. And then when it reaches a cliff or a slope, it starts rolling down and it gathers mass. And eventually it becomes an avalanche and causes destruction further down. On the left, you see the trees. And those of you who have been to Kalam and have seen the Maidan forest, they will remember the trees are straight like a pencil. Those who have visited Shogran, this picture is from Shogran about 3-4 years ago, the trees are curved at the bottom. And this is because of the snow. They act the first barrier against the snow slug. And this picture could not have shown it any better. So anybody who's saying that plantation can replace, I think it is grossly wrong. And they need to put their mind right, actually. There are other reasons as well, tens of reasons I can count why, but there is no time for that. The third myth that I want to address is that sustainable timber harvesting is the best use of forests. Sorry, I have to remember. This is the third myth is that sustainable timber harvesting is the best use of the forest lands. And this is related to the mystery I was talking about, which is the protected forest. And I'll address the protected forest later. But let me begin by saying loud and clear. Now, today, where we stand, sustainable timber harvesting is not the best use of the forest, not at all. And I'm sure my colleagues here, foresters, would disagree and challenge me. I'm happy to be challenged on that, but I'll give the reasons why I say so. But I'll come to that through the other slides. Here is a picture of the mystery of the protected forest. Thank you for the help, because I'm too focused on what I have to. So if you can see that, basically, this gives you how the forests are distributed. Most of the forests fall in the three categories of protected, Guzara, reserve forest, Guzara also communal forest in some places as in northern areas. Reserve forest and protected forest together make up 97% of the total state-owned forest. And 40% of the forest in KP fall in protected area, with more than half of it in Malacca.
Malacca division?
Malaccan division. You know, because of the princely state in the forest that they were taken over. The advent of the protected forest, but let me pause. My colleague is forester here. And one question, anyone, what is the difference between a protected forest and a reserve forest? Both are state-owned forests. Anyone want to take a shot?
In reserve forests, there are no rights given to the people, while in protected forests, a lot of rights are given to them.
Yeah, this is what we were taught in Pakistan Forest Institute. This is what most foresters know. And this is what is not true. I discovered this mystery only 4 years ago during one of my research I was doing as one of the projects I was doing. protected forests are, and also why are protected forests? Okay, the second definition is we were told reserve forest, everything is prohibited until allowed. Protected forest, everything is allowed until prohibited. Now, if everything is allowed, why it's called protected? Doesn't make sense, really. What I discovered during this process was, next please. Next one. The protected forest was never meant to be a permanent legal category. It's not a legal category that is supposed to last. When the British started reservations, when they were running short of timber, when they ran out of the tropical long fiber timber for ship and railway, they came to the north and they started to look at devdars and other trees and started to reserve them. To do that, people resented that, of course, and they would go through a process, what was called a forest settlement process, through which they dealt with the people's rights and eventually declared forest as a reserve. So reserve forests are state-owned. It is just like you have acquired a piece of land for a hospital or for a school. And when people talk about, the people's right on it and community right on it, actually they have already been dealt with. This is to be used for the broader public interest for which these forests are acquired or are meant to be. But then, and what also happened was that when the people resented, some of the forests were left out, and they were called Guzara forests because they were meant to meet the local needs of the people. They were never meant to make money, and surplus timber could be sold, but could be sold. It was not necessary that you would have to cut. The priority is to meet the needs of the local people for self-use. And if it is a surplus, then of course that can be sold. What happened in the process was that there were some categories of forest which people disputed and which the British at the time thought we don't need to reserve at this point in time. So let's not create a controversy. So they created protected area as a parking lot, purely as a parking lot. We put it aside, we will come back to it when we need it. Next, please. Look at that slide carefully. Between 1890 and 1900, the area under protected forest shrunk to less than 1 million hectares. There were 5 million hectares of reserve and protected forest, 14 million reserve and 5 million protected in the beginning of that decade. By the end of the decade, they had settled almost all of the protected forests. They either made them reserve or they left them for communities, but there was very little of that left. What it signals is where we went wrong and terribly wrong, and I put the entire blame on the foresters. We didn't know, and we didn't advise the government to do so. They should have foremost undertaken a process of forest settlement of these protected forests all over the country. And so that there is a very clear understanding of who owns what. Under the present scenario, I'm not into prophecy, but I can bet if this process doesn't go, the Teneva is not clarified, we can bang our head against the wall, the forest of Malakand will not be safe. You can do anything you want. And if I'm dead by then, you can exhume my body and spit on my face if it happens. Because it is not, it's very, social scientists know that the underlying issue of tenure is so critical to the security of the resource for the future. Next, please. Adil, I know you're worried about my time. Forest science and intellect, this is my other point I want to make. I very strongly believe and this is based on my research, and I make these points here, but you can challenge me on any, I have the evidence behind it, that both the foresters as well as the bureaucrats, which means the civil service, the secretaries, have either out of ignorance or deliberately abused the word science, concealed facts, or misinterpreted the law to get the policy decision they wanted to take. And I think they should be held accountable for that, absolutely. Part of the reason is that the forest within, there is the knowledge deficit. You know, the working plans, there is overall a deterioration which has gone like any service in the country, but forest more so that I know. Forest working plans, nobody really even know how to write a working plan. There is a lot of cut and paste. There is no proper analysis of the data that they obtain. So you can pick a working plan of 50 years ago, and now 80% of it will be the same. Only the cutting schedule will change, and then it becomes a work. 50% of the forests are not even covered by working plans. And then there is the issue of climate change or biodiversity. We foresters claim we know, but honestly we don't, because we never studied it. We never accepted it as a alternative thinking for the use of the forest, because we were too focused on the sustainable production of timber. Next, please. So I talked about the concealing or misinterpreting scientific facts. Now the role of the dead, dry, and fallen trees, for example, which has been actually the basis of the scientific management policy. And I want to make two comments here. One, the word science has been abused because science is presented in these policies as if it is a very good thing to do. If you have done scientific forest management, you are right, no matter what you have done. And all of the scientists sitting in this room, they know science is value neutral. It depends on to which value you apply the science. If you use the drones for drug smuggling, is science good or bad? It has nothing to do with science. It is for what you use it. And that is why this scientific forest management policy actually was a cover. And the government was deliberately misled, I believe, that dry and wind fallen trees removal is a scientific use. It depends on two things. One, do you use these trees? Is the forest meant to be producing timber? If this is still the main goal, then yes, you can do that, but not really, because they didn't tell the government that the birds have their nests on the dry trees. You can go to any developed society and any forest, they would not remove dead trees, standing trees, because the birds nest on them. It's a very basic thing of the biodiversity. Also telling that these cause fire. The irony is most of the dry fallen trees are removed from temperate forest, very few from the cheer zone. Most of the fire occurs in the cheer zone, not in the temperate forest. So it's also, they're not telling the truth to the government. They're trying to hide behind it to get the policy decisions which are wrong. And then the whole population suffers. But they also don't tell the government, like this drive and fallen policy. Did anybody tell the government that this drive and fallen policy is the fourth one in the sequence? It happened in 1978 when I joined the service. At that time, one conservator of forests and several DFOs lost their job. They were removed because the windfalls were misused. Then there was in 2002, then there was another one afterwards. And this would be the, why don't we not learn from the past? And why don't we tell the government that this is a wrong thing to do? And everybody would agree, let this rot. If in 2002 this timber was allowed to rot, I can bet today more trees would not have been cut. Okay, next please. Also, you know, the law issue is, It's very long and it can take a lot of time. But I don't want to go into it, but I want to make one clear statement. For this exercise, I read the 2002 ordinance very carefully, or 2-3 days actually. Try to understand. I didn't read the 2017 amendment. I didn't have the time for it. I think if you allow me to use the word, that the forest law has, I don't find a polite word for it. Okay, it has been completely distorted from the core function of protection and conservation to exploitation under the garb of sustainable development. This is the major. So if you, I put all these three, there is actually three things I notice. One, more space has been opened to other uses of forest, which under the law would not be allowed. Because anybody, any student of law will tell you that any subservient legislation cannot override the main legislation. If the purpose of the act is to conserve, you cannot undertake activities which subvert the conservation. It's not, it's illegal. So you cannot interpret the law in any other way. And this has happened. So one, the law has been weakened. Forest officers have sought more power. It has become a forest force. Instead of one collector being, for example, the forest settlement officer, it is now a board in which DFO will sit as well. So he is a party. Whether he should sit or not is questionable, but let it be. But there are other things which have, but also interestingly, for your, the Guzara forest has been defined as protected wasteland. And contrary to what the former secretary is apparently said to have written to Chief Secretary, there are no protected wastelands in Hari or Maknial. Actually, Guzar, it is defined in law that they are protected wastelands. But what is also in this law, that landowners, wasteland, private owners can request the government to declare and manage their forest as reserve forest and protected forest, and that the department may apply the provision of these to the private. How can this happen? Reserve forest is meant to be a state forest. So how can a Guzara forest be managed as a state forest?
Sir, excuse me,
It
sir.
is within the law.
Excuse me, sir. Can we have it wrapped up, sir?
Of course.
Quickly,
we
sir.
can.
You can have a discussion afterwards, yeah.
Okay.
It's very interesting how.
Yeah, no, of course. This was about the former secretary. Actually, I read it in the paper and I thought I'll pick it up. I think he's absolutely
Next slide.
mythless.
Motion.
Next, please.
Please.
Next, please. And I think mostly it's flimsy, what his arguments, I don't really want to go. One of the underlying factor is the erosion of leadership in the Forest Service and the issue of intellectual integrity and moral authority. One example I want to give is when the Billion Tree Program was launched, it was a century, once in a century opportunity for the Forest Service to receive such a high level of political and financial support. And I think the Forest Department didn't advise correctly the Prime Minister that you cannot plant 1 billion trees in 3 years. You just cannot plant. Raising a nursery plant takes 6 months to 18 months. So it could have been done. It has achieved a lot, but could have achieved a lot better. I would, the way forward, there are a few things that I thought about, and this, Adil, would be my last slide.
Next.
Last slide, please.
Next,
Next, please. No, go ahead. This is, okay. Go ahead. Okay. Shahid Zaman Sahab, my one plea to you would be, it may not be a priority now. You have tons of other things. but do give it a thought to have a relook with all the forest laws and the 2022 ordinance. I can clearly see where things have filtered in. It's not my job, but I think it's, if you want to leave a lasting mark, these distortions also have to be corrected at some point. But I think it's very, very vital. Second, and this is again another big one, rethink fundamentally the purpose of forest management. The British wanted to reserve forest for sustainable timber production because they needed timber for shipping and for railway for the expanding empire around the world. And because of the World War and their war with French, they didn't have access to more timber, so they really wanted to do that. Today, this is not our need as a country, as a people. Some people probably need it. There are cheaper alternatives available in the market. China has brought even doors which last for ages. So this is, we are in the midst of climate crisis. And if these reservations did not exist, these protected forests not exist, the government would be well advised to acquire new land, buy land, and create these carbon sanctuaries, as I would call them, so that you can protect your people and their assets. There is no other way. So we need to rethink fundamentally whether the forest should be managed. And we have to make a very clear distinction between the state forest. State forest, there is no question in my mind, keep them set aside for climate ecosystem. Stop. No timber. Every other use is subservient to that. Guzara forest, community forest, yes, people have right. First, meet their own rights. If there is any surplus, you can sell it, but all of it again subservient to the overriding consideration of climate and conservation. And that was the intent of the original Forest Act. We'll reverse the decisions on bait policies, which Shahzaman Saab is already doing. We salute to him. Bar all forest harvesting, management, and development activities out the scope of forest management plans. It's very simple. And build competence and capacity in forest service. If there is one thing which is, there are two. One is the competence, technical. This is easy to upgrade. The other is leadership and integrity. People no longer have the ability to stand up, Shahzaman Saab, to you and to your predecessor to tell him that this is not right. Chief conservator is meant to be the chief technical advisor. He has to have the spine to stand up and say to you, sir, you said this, but this is not possible. I heard your farmer secretary once personally told me, I went to see a plantation and I asked people to put one plant, one seed, and something else in the same pit. And I told him, if I was DFO, I would fire you. He said, I did it because to increase the possibility of success. I said, you are actually putting weeds beside the plant. They will compete for nutrients and water. So you can't do that. It's my responsibility to tell him. He still can overrule me, but I have the ability to be able, and the forest department doesn't, no longer. So I'll stop here. Thank you so much. Sorry if I've taken longer, but I'm get very patient about it. It's my job.
Sir, we will serve you one cookie less than what you deserve, sir. Thank you, sir, for your candid and insightful, thoughtful insights. Our next speaker is a very distinguished civil servant, former Chairman WAPDA and governance specialist, who topped CSS exams in 1971 and one of very few bureaucrats who have served as Chief Secretary of almost all the provinces in Pakistan. With deep interest in community-driven forestry and environmental issues, his memoir, Frontier Stations, provided a rare inside view of governance and reform. He currently serves as Executive Director at the Ghulam Isa Khan Institute, Topi. We look forward to his reflections. May I invite you, sir, to speak?
Here. So, let me start with some depressing anecdotes or statements. We are facing a problem
a problem we should have addressed. And this is not just forestry and waters, but it's the climate. It's more than the climate, our environment. Things which we should have done the time of Fajr, we forgot it at Zohr. Then Asr passed, we did nothing. Now we are close to Maghrib and soon there'll be nightfall. And we have still not touched it. And I have very little hopes that it's done even now. Because this growth of our population, 24 crores, it was 3.5 crore rupees at the time of independence. It should really be called partition, but anyway, we call it independence, and we have made a hash of it. Now, this level of population, it's very difficult to sustain, especially with the way we have been conducting business. Lahore in 1980, 30% urbanized. Today, it is 64% urbanized, 40 years later. Mardan, between this period, the urbanization has increased by 25%. And that runs all across. I visited Mingora and Sedu Sharif and Aptabad the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I was just horrified to see the failure of government. Now, we know, to begin with, there's a apathy of the politicians in power or the non-politicians in power. There's virtual apathy, but unfortunately, this apathy coincides with the death of the districts. There's no district administration any longer. No one really is pushed. You go to Thana, Tahsil, Kacheri, it's not functioning. You just spoke about the forestry. We've seen what's happened to the forestry, but you go to schools and hospitals and 26 million children out of school, and no one is pushed. So whether we are going to improve, I don't know. But I really feel that it's an uphill struggle. About focusing on forestry, I read someplace that amongst the Buddhists, when a child is born, they plant 6 trees. But that's not confined to the Buddhists only. Rudolf Schabrowski, we know him. He's the person who set up the Khyber wood factory in Peshawar and then the salami factory. Germans, him and his wife. And he was at one time making stocks for the army rifles for the war, POF war. And he told me that for every walnut tree that he fells, he plants 10. And he said that what hope is there in your country? And this is the early 70s when he said that, where the biggest forest contractors are ministers in the frontier context. And they're in such a hurry to fell forests. And according to him, they don't have time to use the saws. They place explosives at the base of the forest so that, it's done quickly, people don't find out. So if this is the environment, I don't know what's going to happen, but okay, this is where it is. Let's move ahead. And Bunair just taught us, and the floods in Mingora just taught us, and the floods in Kalam a few years back taught us that you need some regulation. And, I'm not making a presentation, just another 4 or 5 minutes. There is no land use regulation. If you were to fly by helicopter from Peshawar to Swat and you overfly Charsada and Mardan and Malakand, or if you take a helicopter from here to, let's say, Gilgit-Baltistan, and you fly over Haripur and Aptabad and Batagram and all these areas, you're amazed. No large patch of forest exists. People are planting homes wherever they want to. And this happens, let's say in Peshawar. The GT road is dead. That was the finest, the most valuable agricultural land in Pakistan. Parts of the GT road towards Nowshera and parts of the GT road towards Matra and Warsak and Charsada, their produce index unit was better than that of Faisalabad. And the one towards Nowshera is virtually gone. The one towards Warsak, that has also been bought by societies. Nothing has succeeded more than societies, housing societies in Pakistan. Now, unless the government at this time of Maghrib decides to do something, there will be nothing left really. Because we have really taken a severe beating. And I propose that we have a land use regulatory authority placed in a division, maybe to work for the districts, under the Board of Revenue in the province, so that any change of status, any conversion cannot be allowed unless the state decrees it, the provincial government decrees it. Even if it is private land, you see Charsada and you see Mardan. So there's someone who has, let's say, a big landlord. Let's say he has 4 sons and 40 jaribs. So everyone gets 10 jaribs. So the elder son retains the house and the younger sons go and plonk themselves inside their 10 acres, 10 jaribs. So over time, it becomes a urbanized area. It becomes congested. That cannot be allowed any further, and especially in a province like KP, which with great difficulty only produces 1/3 of the food that it needs. Now, land use regulation is important, and that would cover not just the forested land, that will cover agricultural land, that will cover the banks of the river, that if you want to build something, you will have to get the sanction of the state. And along the rivers, the KP now has the Protection of River Ordinance, the Protection of River Act 2002. No convictions, none at all. And people have built into the Kalam River. I used to be commissioner there, and we decided once to start knocking off the pagodas people built inside the rivers. And straight away came a stay order from some civil judge, nothing happened. And then nature always avenges itself, and rivers avenge themselves severely. And you saw what happened in Kalam some years ago. And I inquired of people as to why were these hotels allowed. The first time they were allowed virtually inside the river, again they were allowed because the local government, and everyone seems to think that the panacea for this state, the only way, the solution to resolve all problems is the local government. But an unchecked local government like the one we had in Pakistan, it's going to be another disaster. So districts are dead, local government is even deader. So unless they are made accountable. So now what happened in Bonaire? Because these nalas that we have, they are ghair mumkin, belong to individuals. They are not even shamilat, they belong to the state. So when in ghair mumkin you decide to build something and they say, oh, well, we haven't had floods since I was born and I'm 30, 40 years old. Well, you were, there will be no floods, but floods are going to come, and they came. So the land regulatory authority must identify, just as the maximum flood levels have been identified, you can't build below the maximum flood levels. You can't even build a road. In India, you cannot build on agricultural land or that land which has 2 irrigations a year. No question of conversion. They don't allow the conversion. Even the state cannot acquire. And if the state has to acquire, it'll have to find out a property where you don't have 2 irrigations a year. Pakistan, we have, I think, 48 million acres of irrigated land, and maybe this is not the Barani. 48 million acres of irrigated land, and all of them, all these areas are 2 irrigations a year. Now, unless 70% of the people of the Indian states or that village or that moda decide to allow acquisition, only then it's acquired. And if you were to build anywhere, you can't get access to the road till the provincial highway authority allows you access to that road. Land might be yours, but the highway authority owns the highways, national and provincial. You can't get access till you ask them. So they have organized it, and we have not organized it. I think if we can have something like this, and I would request this gathering to do something about it so that we can at least move forward. You know, I'll end with this another anecdote, so to speak. Galiat has been devastated. In 1998, Sardar Mehtab Abbasi was the chief minister, and it was decided, I was then serving in KP, and it was decided, excuse me, that in the Galiat, no house built by outsiders in that defined area would be under 2 canals. And even if in some cases, in some areas, you allow 1 canal, nothing less than that, only 25% would be built upon. 75% would be left green. And I remember there was a meeting in Banigala. Imran was then not the prime minister, but Pervez Khattak was the prime minister. And chief minister. And we said our pieces, we said all these things. And as soon as the meeting, it was decided that 75% would be left green. The moment Imran left, Pervez Khattak says, no, it's going to be 75% will be built upon and 25% will be green. And that's the law at the KP now. So I think let's not beat about the bush. The Galiat, I was for a short time, actually for 1 meeting only, and then I resigned. The chairman of GDA, Azam Khan, had appointed me, but then something happened and I couldn't function. So we said that the Ghulam Ishaq Khan Institute, GIK, would do a land use plan for Galiat, right from Badiyan to Aftabad, along the roadside, to identify areas which cannot be built upon. Galiat has a severe problem of water, and it's a sub-Himalayan, it's a very soft soil, and the summers, it's quite a problem. So you have to identify, as the Austrians did in Malam Jabba, they made it very clear that these areas will never build up anything. These would remain as they are. So we need regulatory authority which regulates so that the Galiat, whatever remains of it, now no longer gets converted to Naran Kagan, which is another disaster. You know, Naran Kagan some years ago was a place to visit, and now it's a concrete jungle. It's like the mall or the lower mall in Murray. So we would be happy in GIK to do a study at cost. We have some outstanding people who could do that and make a presentation to the provincial government, and we'll request the Secretary Forest, and we'll request the Chief Minister to take a briefing on the subject, because I think we just have to get serious about this. We are almost lost, but let's make an effort. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such valuable lessons from governance and community practices. Our next speaker is Dr. Saima Hashim, who is a climate and water policy specialist. Is an environmental policy specialist with a PhD and postdoctoral research from Japan. She brings expertise in climate resilience, biodiversity, and gender inclusive development. Today, she will highlight how forest finance and feminism intersect, showing how carbon credits can support with both climate justice and gender equality. May I invite you, Dr. Saima, to please enlighten us with your presentation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll say this is an honor for me to speak on this experts forum here today. And this is beside, as a technical speaker, my passion to contribute in this area, because as all of us are concerned, so this is the reason all of us today here are because of our cause and the passion that we hold for our environment and our forests. Okay, so forest finance and female empowerment. Basically, I'm an environmental specialist, safeguard specialist, but today I am filling the gap of connecting forest finance and female empowerment. We all When we plant trees, we plant the seeds of peace and hope. There is a very famous verse from one of our very famous poetess, Parveen Shakar. And she said, इस बार जो ईंधन के लिए कट के गिरा है, चिड़ियों को बहुत प्यार था उस बूढ़े शजर से. One tree holds the whole biodiversity ecosystem within itself. Its age is centuries old, and reforestation or afforestation is not that easy to do. However, it is good at least to take start with. Forests are not just trees, they are climate security, water regulators, and women's survival lifelines. Pakistan's deforestation crisis, I'm not going into much detail because we have experts already covering this area. Just to highlight, okay. So Pakistan's deforestation crisis, natural forest cover shrinking rapidly, deforestation hotspots, KP, Gilgit-Baltistan, Galiat, links to disasters, floods, landslides, and wildfires. The story, the data tells that how we go back over like last 15 years. This slide shows the from 2010 to 2024, Pakistan lost 2.22 thousand hectares of trees cover, equivalent to 0.33% of 2003 cover area, and 681 thousand trees of carbon dioxide emissions are now there. This does not account for gains in tree cover over the same period. This is the situation of KP. So this is a situation for KP. As we can see how the deforestation was done at a single glance. And again, as mentioned in 2016, it was a little bit better situation, rather good one, positive. And then again, the graph keeps on increasing. And again, there were, you can see which areas were more targeted or destroyed. There include Malakand, Hazara, Mardan, and Fata area then, and then Dera Ismail Khan as well. Forest as climate security infrastructure. As we know that forests they play a very significant role in reducing flood intensity, recharge aquifers, regulate microclimates. Deforestation transforms watersheds into flood factories, as we have recently witnessed. Forest as national security assets, forests should be treated as national security assets. Now, relating it to the finance, I had the privilege to attend the KP carbon credit. There was a forum, carbon credit forum last week. So that gave me more inspiration to add that thing into my slide, my presentation. Finance carbon credit opportunity. Pakistan's national carbon credit framework, it is under process. Carbon sinks, forest as carbon sinks, untapped finance potentials. I'll show what is the situation in KP in the coming slides, and opportunities for community incentives and sustainable livelihood. So carbon credit revenue potential. Since we have already started with blue carbon. Okay. Apologies because both the things are not in synchronization. Okay. So carbon credit revenue potential by sector and region in Pakistan. You can see that KP exceed all the renewable energy project, the Sindh blue carbon project, and KP forestry project has a potential to exceed all these. Risks in finance. The first one is like it is like we all know that the funds issue, as happens in the developing countries, elite captures of fund. The second is lack of transparency. We are all lamenting this issue right now. Weak institutional monitoring. And the fourth one, inclusion. Need for inclusive, accountable governance. Feminism. Okay, so I'll call it not feminism, rather female empowerment, women as forest stewards, disproportionately affected by deforestation, floods, and wildfires. You can see, and this is a very open thing, and I will, in my coming slides, I'll discuss some of the published cases regarding how this case is highlighted. Women manage household, energy, fuel wood, fodder, and water. And since the population is increasing and we are not, effectively using our gender empowerment or female potential, and that's why we are not training the women, and we are losing this half of our population's potential. If they are rightly trained and if they are rightly included in decision making, so we'll be able to use their positive role, often excluded from decision making and finance. They are not financially empowered, as well as they have no say in the case of policy making or decision making. Gender justice in carbon finance. The issues are: carbon finance can empower women if designed inclusively, benefits, direct payments benefit to women-led cooperatives, and trainings. This was also discussed in the last week project presented by the KP government forest department, that training of women in nursery raising, forest monitoring, ecotourism, these can really help the carbon finance. Integrating the 3 Fs: forest ecological basis, finance scaling mechanism, and female empowerment and equity justice lens. Together, when integrated, these 3 Fs deliver both environmental protection and inclusive prosperity. So as I mentioned earlier, I'll discuss some of my, as I went through preparation of this talk, some of my favorite case studies. Wokan Gender Due Diligence Guide. This is a very good international guide available in 2024, and this is a practical tool to integrate gender equality into natural climate solutions. It introduces due diligence questions for carbon credit projects, ensures women rights and voices are a part of climate initiatives, and in key due diligence structured process for fairness and accountability. So this is a very good guide for any country or any institution taking up with the carbon finance and carbon credit. The other case is Urgent Imperative Gender Equality in Climate Action 2025. This was a study. It is a feminist framework for climate justice. It stresses that women are uniquely vulnerable in climate crisis, and the strategies are that feminist leadership and women-led cooperative should be encouraged, and inclusive finance should be taken up. Gender transformative and reshaping systems for equality. Women and carbon market integrity. Reuters, this article was published in Reuters, and this says that women are central to protecting forest and carbon market credibility. The case study was done in Costa Rica as a global example. When the women were involved in the carbon market, the integrity was increased and they were more productive and the success was higher. Climate justice and gender equality. This article was published in the news by Sadia Sati, and she wrote a very comprehensive article back in January 2024. It says that explore the women's disproportionate impact from climate change. During the disaster, the women suffer more, the household, the livelihood, the health, all these things are impacting the gender disproportionately. And then cities action of a gender action plan, women leadership and finance access. This also covers that area. Gap between policy promises and ground reality persist. So the policies, this article justifies that policies in Pakistan should be gender responsive, explicitly accounting for women need and role. This is another organization, ODI, GLOW program. It was a 5 years project and did research that in multiple countries, including Asia, Africa, and also Asia and Africa and some other countries in the globe. Multi-country research on women empowerment in low carbon transitions. It studied that sectors like agroforestry, ecotourism, and renewable energy can benefit greatly if the women are taken in trainings and they are given inclusive opportunities. And evidence that climate resilience stronger when women are empowered, and low carbon transition shift to clean, sustainable systems. So key takeaways, wrapping up all these points together, forest protection is inseparable from climate justice and gender equality. Carbon markets can empower women if designed with gender due diligence. Gender transformative policies go beyond inclusive to system change. Women leadership ensures integrity in conservation and finance. Pakistan must align forest, finance, and gender policies for real impact. Policy recommendations: declare forest as critical climate security infrastructure, as we were discussing earlier before this meeting. Ensure gender inclusive benefits sharing in carbon finance. Establish transparent monitoring for carbon projects. Incentivize community forest stewardship. And call to action. So in the beginning, the speakers have the same opinion, but only I will add one more to those points. Treat deforestation as a national climate emergency. Harness carbon finance for communities, not elites. Empower women as frontline climate leaders. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Saima, for connecting ecological and social dimensions so powerfully. And we do acknowledge and recognize the critical role that the women can play in the forest development and conservation. We take a break from the expert presentations, and I request Awais Heather Jhakar, our Honorable MNA and member of the Climate Change Committee for National Assembly.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, I really appreciate STPI for inviting me in the discussion. I'll be more. I'll be more general in my discussion, as I wasn't aware that I have to come with the USP or a specific topic to be discussed. Why I took interest in climate change? Because we, the people of District Layya, are direct victim to climate change. And what I see is that my district is among those most vulnerable districts of Pakistan. The reason is the mighty Indus is continuously devouring thousands of acres annually, and it is happening for last few decades. All of us know that we agreed for Paris Agreement that we will not let the temperature rise of this planet more than 2 degrees centigrade. But today's studies say that the average temperature that has risen of our planet is 1 degree, but unfortunately in Pakistan it's already has gone above 1.5 degree. And the consequences we are facing today in the form of flood and deforestation. After that, I'll say that the glaciers of Pakistan, studies say that the depletion rate of glacier which we are having today is by the end of 2050, 80% of these glaciers will deplete if the speed goes on like this and we don't combat against the climate change. I have recommended some of the options to combat against the climate change is the concept of soul share that was started in Bangladesh. The soul share is like everybody today has solar panels on its roof, and that in Bangladesh, that solar panels act as a microgrid, and those solar panels are further connected to the national grid. And with this activity, they have mitigated the impact of carbon emissions by 25%. And with this activity, they are also selling this electricity to neighbors, and this activity has increased 30% of their monthly income. As I have a session within 10 to 20 minutes and also a very important meeting, so I'll cut it short, that we must start public awareness messages to whole nation that we must cut fossil fuels usage. Number two, we must double the budget of climate change. We must shift towards nature-based solutions. We must shift towards electric vehicles, and we must use hydrogen. I'll conclude with the saying of Mahatma Gandhi that this water, land, and air is not inherited to us, but it is debt on us that we have to transfer to our future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ji.
Thank you, sir. We assure you that we will cut everything that you want us to cut, sir, except the forest, sir.
Thank you.
May I now introduce you to our
I have
next
session.
expert, ji, please.
Thank you very much for
Thank you for being with us, sir. Our next speaker are actually two speakers. So the presentation will be delivered combined by Advocate Ali Gohar Durrani and Tariq Ali Shah Sahab. Durrani Sahab is a legal expert on environmental law and has a history of actually fighting the cases in Supreme Court and High Court pro bono. So he's our mujahid for the people who violate the forest destructions. Advocate Ali Gohar is a Supreme Court lawyer and founding partner of a leading law firm with deep experience in constitutional and environmental law. He has been at the forefront of litigation between Green Bench of Peshawar High Court. Today he will share a legal perspective on how Pakistan forest and environmental laws interest with climate challenges. With him will be Tariq Ali Shah, who is our star forester and one of whom we, ji sir? No, so Tariq Ali Shah is with us, sir. He's with us, sir. Sitting right next to me, sir. Would you like to shift to Tariq sir? Okay. So may I invite Ali Gohar sir and Tariq sir too?
Thank you very much. It's important that you mentioned Tariq Ali Shah Sahab because Tariq Ali Shah Sahab and myself, we have a history of putting appearances before the Green Bench at the Peshawar High Court. And Allah Bakshe Taisir Rashid Sahab ko, he had done quite a lot in that area. When he was first as judge of the environment, jo Green Bench tha uska, and then when he became the Chief Justice. What we want to basically present on is how do we strengthen the forest protection and judicial mechanisms in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And when we are talking about this, there is a context to it. See, now we have in Pakistan, or rather when we are talking about the current gathering, we talk about Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in particular. And we have the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Forest Ordinance of 2002, which Rafiq Saab had outrightly dismissed as being, and rightly so, because there were things that were done which probably should have been a betterment of the Forestry Act of 1927, but we went the other way around, unfortunately. Though much has been done when it was amended in the year 2022, there were drastic amendments brought in the otherwise toothless Forest Ordinance of 2002, and it has been made quite effective in terms of the governance issues, in terms of strengthening the Forest Department, in terms of bringing in the requirements of the law that were supposed to be there. Though still much has to be done. Then when we are looking at it from the legal perspective and the rationale, other than the laws, there are certain conventions that are binding on us because we're signatories to them. Now, when we see the Convention on the Biological Diversity or the UN Framework Convention on the Climate Change or the UN Convention on Combating Desertification or CITE, for instance, Now, because Pakistan is a signatory to these conventions, Pakistan needs to take steps which strengthen the forest governance, which are to ensure the ecological sustainability, and which somehow integrate the environmental justice into the. Virus तो नहीं होगा. Because it's my office laptop. I literally am scared.
Not unless you need it.
It's I can basically
But you can speak, you can
I can speak out. I would not risk my office laptop.
No, never.
So that is how it is. Now, having talked about what laws we have and what conventions we have, we take some examples of basically green benches or the green tribunals that have been established around the world. We take the example of India. India took the lead in the year 2010 when they established the National Environmental Tribunal, which is the Green Tribunal, in the year 2010. Pakistan replicated that in the year 2012 without the legal backing, though, because it is an establishment of the law in India. They have the main principal seat in New Delhi, and they have 4 other benches or camp courts for the tribunal. You have India, you have in Costa Rica, you have Philippines and Bangladesh, which have established these green tribunals. In Pakistan, when it was established, Lahore High Court took the lead, and Justice Mansoor Ali Shah was made the first green bench at the Lahore High Court. Justice Yahya Afridi, ironically enough, both of them are now in the Supreme Court. He was the first one in the Peshawar High Court to be made the green bench. And the story started from there. Much was done at the Lahore High Court, much was done by the Peshawar High Court. And I believe credit again has to be given, though he's no longer here, Qaisar Rashid Saab, because he took this thing way forward. Any environmental issue, and when I said Tariq Saab and myself, we go a long way back, it is you would just bring an issue that this is the issue. There's a forest, a tree is being cut in Chitral. And the moment someone would say he's going to be like, bring Tariq, he's the focal person, he would be sent to Chitral irrespective of whether it's like 6-7 feet snow in Chitral or otherwise. It would be like, bring me the report. And he did quite a lot in that sense. But as I mentioned, there is no legal backing for it. And despite the fact that we now have Article 9A of the right to clean environment incorporated in our Constitution, there is another bar on the constitutional jurisdiction of the High Court and the Supreme Court. You cannot go beyond the pleadings, which was previously the case. So if there was one environmental issue, anything connected with that issue could easily have been ventured into by the green bench. No more. You cannot go beyond what you have brought before the court anymore. Because of the 26th Constitutional Amendment, that bar has been brought. So what do we propose? We basically propose that in order to bridge gap between legislation, enforcement, international obligations, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa needs to have a green tribunal. Now we do have, and I must add, an environmental tribunal functioning. But that is not something that concerns itself with forest-related issues. That is purely something that it takes into account the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Protection of Environment Act of 2014. If anything within the mandate of that act, then the Environment Tribunal has the jurisdiction. Anything concerning the forest, it does not have the jurisdiction. And as Shakil Saab had mentioned, stay de dete hain log. And whether it's a civil court or the high court, this thing is of a big concern. Now, again, this is something Tariq Saab would also shed light on it. But we do propose a provincial green tribunal which has to be established by an act of the Provincial Assembly. An act of the Provincial Assembly so that it encompasses all that is required to be there, whether it's in respect of climate change, whether it's in respect of forests, whether it's in respect of anything that concerns us as the residents of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, because if we do not take care of it right now, because it's already too late. There was mentioning of Rafiq Saab ne ek baat ki ke you are not supposed to give away dead trees. I had the opportunity to visit Berkeley Park in Virginia last year. मेरे ख्याल से कोई 30-40 साल के old trees, they were lying and nobody bothers touching them. And it is because if you take them out, whether they're standing or they're down, you're basically damaging the ecology. And that is what nobody is bothered apparently in Pakistan. Then with respect to the Green Tribunal, we would want, and what we seek is that it overall functions under the supervision of the Peshawar High Court, direct supervision of the Peshawar High Court. The reason being, when you make a tribunal totally independent, then the purpose ordinarily is never achieved. Now, you have the environmental tribunal, but the purpose is not met, and that is why people ordinarily come and resort to Article 199 of the Constitution, and they come to the Peshawar High Court whenever there is an issue concerning environment. We currently have litigation concerning Galiyat, where monstrous encroachment of the forest has taken place, where there are hotels being built, all at the expense of Mother Nature. So rather than going to the Environment Tribunal, because Environment Tribunal does not cater for this, we are before the green bench. But the High Court has its own limitation. And because of those limitations, there is a requirement to have a separate tribunal established. And with this tribunal, there should be senior members of the judiciary on the tribunal. There should be technical experts, like Environment Tribunal mein, there is one chairman, there is another technical member, and the technical member ordinarily is a lawyer. But no, when it comes to forest, you don't need a lawyer to be there on an environmental or to be on a green tribunal. You need an actual forester who has the sense of what actual forests are about. But that is not the case. And that is why when I said there is dire need to bring a law in, that law has to be taken into account, that law has to be made, taken into account these practical challenges that come before the department as well as the people at large. That is another issue. Then what to confer them with? And Tariq Saab had basically pointed out and coined this idea: confer upon them entire civil and criminal jurisdiction related to environmental offenses. It is not that it is only criminal or civil. No. Anything concerning environment, whether it is forest, climate change, anything that concerns the environment at large, confer that jurisdiction on them and let them decide every issue within a period of 60 days. उनको power दें कि वो stay दे सकते हैं, उनको power दें कि वो interim relief दे सकते हैं. But with this one condition, that every case that comes before this tribunal, it has to be decided no more and no later than 60 days. If this thing happens, all these issues that currently the Forest Department is facing, there is litigation before Abbottabad High Court, there is litigation before the Peshawar High Court concerning the Forest Department, in which stays are granted, and because, as I mentioned, the high courts have their own limitation. There are hundreds and thousands of cases before them, and they cannot be just prioritizing, because again, the life and liberty of individual is much more important. That is what they prioritize. So environment, again, it is of very much importance, and that importance is not granted to it. I'll just conclude it. The rest Tariq Saab would shed light on. And I would say there is need for amendments in the forest laws. And those amendments need to be made bearing in mind the practical challenges that Pakistan faces Shakil Durrani Saab had referred to कि जी ये River Swat पे ये hotels जब बन रहे थे and everything, nobody bothered stopping them. I have been engaged as a consultant on proposing amendments in the River Protection Ordinance of 2002. When I went through the law, in 2002, when this ordinance was brought, they had given protection to the already built buildings, whether they were hotels or any other infrastructure. Proper protection was given. Now, we have proposed, and I hope that proposal sees the light of the day, that whatever, even if there are existing structures, you need to make them come down to certain requirements that unless you fulfill these requirements, you cannot function any longer. And with that, I will conclude and hand it over to Tariq Saab. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Adil Durrani Saab, and we, as he told you, that we will be a member of the Green Bench for long 3 years and been working with the Green Bench. When I was my colleagues, though I was a silent member of the SEN, and most of you know me, whenever they ask something and I put my proposal in the group. So I am here today in front of most of the members. Dr. Naseem and Ali Gaur Saab know me better. But I tell you one thing, Rafiq Saab earlier told that there is some issues with the Forest Ordinance 2002. He mentioned 2022. As I'm an author of the 2022 amendments. In 2022 amendments, we added the merged districts for Schedule 3. And in Schedule 3, we constituted a body that when there is a large scale illicit damage in the forest, there should be an tribunal, there should be a committee been found that under Section 7 of that Schedule 3. And for 60 days, it's a time limitation. There is a time limitation. The cutting of trees is not stopped any at that place. That area will be converted as a state land. And that is called a tiga in the FRCPS, old FATA laws. But we framed that in that, given it as legal provision. And sir, I tell you one thing, that while drafting this Forest Ordinance 2022, I added some new sections. I think you haven't gone through that section 119. It's cover all the bilateral laws which been agreements had been signed by the government, by the government with international donor agencies. And I can say that Forest Department can now be work as they can go for a national parks, like Fraxinus is endangered species. We may go for the Fraxinus. Batellia utilis is now as endangered species. We may make the national parks for the Batellia utilis. And such, we are actually our concept is now built up that the national parks are now for the endangered species of the animal species. But no, we may go for the other trees. Like I can say now, Deodar is endangered now. In my opinion, Deodar is also got endangered. So we have a provision in the Forest Ordinance, and we can create such bars on cutting such trees, that if there is I can say if the Deodar is left only a few trees there, we can declare it as a protected area, something like that. So I still remember with my worthy secretary, I had a first meeting with him, sir, if you remember, Yusuf Khan, and we were sitting in the Thai Forest Rest House, and I handed over one book which was written by the British. Rafiq Saab rightly referred to that book, and sir, this was the first book which I have handed over to you while your visit. And after that, sir, your mind has been now set that we should shift our ideas from timber harvesting towards the protection side. Section 109, sir, there is nothing wrong with these all sections which been provided for this Guzara forest, protected forest. But there is something which needs, we need a change for section 100. Section 100 is basically meant for the forest management. And we have to add some bars on this section 100, sir, section 100. So if we add some bars, then we'll be able to face the civil society, we'll be able to have a good management, we'll be able to have a very concrete and good things to be added. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Ali Gohar Saab and Tariq Saab, for your incisive legal analysis and advocacy for environmental justice. Our very honorable MNA, Dr. Shazia Sobia Sumru, is waiting to join us online. May I invite her to share her views and suggestions as member of the Climate Change Committee of the National Assembly. May I invite Dr. Shazia Sobia, please?
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Alaikum assalam. We can, ma'am. Please.
Okay. Thank you, SDPI, for inviting me in this important discussion for the challenges to action safeguard Pakistan natural wealth for climate security and sustainable prosperity. I'm glad to hear so many experts' opinions, solutions, but I have a question. Being a public representative, being a policy maker, lawmaker, and member of Standing Committee on Climate Change, who is the responsible for the implementation? Either it is a lawmaker, policy maker, civil society, people of Pakistan, who is responsible? मैं अभी सुन रही थी सबकी बातें, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि केपी में इतना सारा काम हुआ है, कार्बन इमिशन पे लॉ बन गए हैं, बट सर मुझे कहते हुए बड़ा दुख हो रहा है। मैं क्लाइमेट चेंज स्टैंडिंग कमेटी क्लाइमेट चेंज की मेंबर हूं। फ्रॉम बिगनिंग, जब से ये स्टैंडिंग कमेटी बनी है और आफ्टर फर्स्ट मीटिंग हमने जो क्लाइमेट चेंज अथॉरिटी के मेंबर्स हैं उनको इनवाइट करना शुरू किया है, और क्योंकि टिम्बर माफिया का सबसे ज्यादा हमें जो आता है वो केपी से ही आता है, एजेके से आता है या फिर जीबी से आता है, तो हमने केपी से मेंबर को इनवाइट किया था, सिंध से मेंबर्स को इनवाइट किया था, बलूचिस्तान से, पंजाब से। मैं अफसोस के साथ ये कहती हूँ कि हमारे पास कोई मेंबर क्लाइमेट चेंज अथॉरिटी का मेंबर आके रिप्रेजेंटेशन नहीं दे रहे हैं। इवन कि वो अपने चले हमें जितने बातें जो टिम्बर माफिया के लिए या किसी और चीज के लिए पता है उनको छोड़ दे, लेकिन जो आपकी अचीवमेंट्स हैं एटलीस्ट वो तो आके आप बताएं हमें। नोबडी बॉदर्स। और फिर ब्लेम आ जाता है कि जी पॉलिसी मेकर्स पार्लियामेंट में बैठते हैं, बैठ के चले जाते हैं, उनसे कुछ नहीं होता है। सर हम लॉ मेकर हैं, पॉलिसी मेकर हैं, हम लॉ बनाएंगे, लेकिन इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के लिए सबको आगे आना होगा। अभी मैं सर की प्रेजेंटेशन सुन रही थी फ्रॉम जीआई के, तो मैं चाहूंगी कि बीइंग अ मेंबर ऑफ स्टैंडिंग कमेटी में आपको इनवाइट करूं कि आप आकर हमें अपनी जो आपकी रिसर्च है, जो आपके काम है, वो आकर हमें बताएं, ताकि हम गवर्नमेंट के सामने एज अ पॉलिसी उस चीज को रखें कि ये चीज हो रही है और आप इन चीजों को लेके आगे बढ़ें। लास्ट फ्यू डेज बैक काठमांडू में नेपाल में एक कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई है जहां पे बताया गया है कि नेक्स्ट ईयर इस साल से 22% ज्यादा डिजास्टर्स होंगे। हम अथॉरिटी दे देते हैं होटल्स बनाने की, हम अथॉरिटी दे देते हैं हाउसिंग सोसाइटी बनाने की, हम दरख्त काटते जाते हैं लेकिन हम हाउसिंग सोसाइटी बनाते जाते हैं। सर हम किससे लड़ाई कर रहे हैं? हम नेचर से लड़ाई कर रहे हैं। हमारी आपस की लड़ाई नहीं है, हम नेचर से लड़ाई कर रहे हैं। और आफ्टर सो मेनी इयर्स स्कर्दू में बारिश और ये इतने बड़े डिजास्टर हुए हैं और ग्लेशियर मेल्टिंग का इतना बड़ा इंसिडेंस हुआ है और 78 इयर्स में हमने कोई भी एक अचीवमेंट जो हम बाहर जाके प्रेजेंट कर सकें, चाहे वो क्लाइमेट चेंज में हो या किसी भी चीज में हो, बाहर की चीजें हम यहाँ ले आते हैं, लेकिन यहाँ से हम कोई ऐसी अचीवमेंट पाकिस्तान के बिहाफ पे जाकर बाहर प्रेजेंट कर सकते हैं? हम नहीं कर सकते हैं। सर मेरी बातें बहुत ज्यादा हार्श हैं, लेकिन फैक्ट है, बिकॉज हम इन चीजों को फेस करते हैं बीइंग अ पब्लिक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव। जब अवाम हमसे पूछती है कि आप वहां बैठ के क्या करते हैं, आप क्यों नहीं इन चीजों को इम्प्लीमेंट करवाते हैं, तो हमें यही फील होता है कि हम उन चीजों को इसलिए इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं करवा सकते क्योंकि माफियाज अपनी रूट्स बना चुकी हैं यहाँ पे। टिम्बर माफिया नंबर 1, रियल एस्टेट नंबर 2, जो हम जिनको अथॉरिटीज देते हैं, जो लॉ मेकर्स हैं या जो हमारी ऑनरेबल कोर्ट्स हैं, उनको स्टे दे देती हैं, जो स्ट्रांग करती हैं उन माफियाज को। सर ये लॉ मेकर, पॉलिसी मेकर या पार्लियामेंटेरियंस का काम नहीं है ना। हम तो आपके सामने एक लॉ बना के रखेंगे, लेकिन मैं इस चीज पे अप्रिशिएट करूंगी आप सब लोगों के व्यूज सुनने के बाद। फ्रॉम द बिगनिंग में आप लोगों की प्रेजेंटेशन सुन रही थी, और जिस तरह से हमारे एक पार्लियामेंटेरियन ने ये कहा कि उनका एरिया पूरा पानी में डूबा हुआ है बिकॉज ऑफ जो हमारी लैक ऑफ इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ पॉलिसीज है, बिकॉज ऑफ माफिया। सर मेरी रिक्वेस्ट ये होगी कि जितने भी यहाँ पे आप लोगों ने अपनी प्रेजेंटेशंस दी हैं या जो भी आप लोगों की यहाँ पे व्यूज कंसल्टेशंस हुई हैं, हमारी स्टैंडिंग कमेटी में अगर आप लोगों की प्रेजेंटेशन हो जाए तो आई होप के गवर्नमेंट को भी और हमें भी कोई रास्ता मिल सकेगा जिसपे हम आप लोगों के साथ मिलके कोई लॉ बना सकें और उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करा सकें। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you, ma'am. We have within this August House a very distinguished civil servant. No, the work of Himatullah sir. Okay. Sangatasu. No, Himatullah sir. So, Sartasu, Mike and Sarwale. So, Himatullah Sahib has a very distinguished career, and we all know his contribution as a civil servant, as now member of the cabinet of interim government in KP. Has a very strong eye on these developments that we see now. May I invite Himatullah Khan Sahib to please speak on this.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to take this opportunity to bring a few linkages between the topic today and what is happening at the national level. We've talked about the deforestation and legal matters, etc. But I'd just like to point out 2-3 things. One is that forests and forestry has competing demands on a forest. And Rafiq mentioned the purpose of a forest. Now that is when we define what the role and the function of forest is, then we will be able to formulate policies accordingly. If you look at the demands on the forest, we forget the local community. The local community is dependent upon that forest. There is these competing demands for conservation and the need of the local community. The local community prepares a cup of tea for probably 10,000 rupees by burning a diyar log, which in the market would fetch thousands of rupees. Forestry are basically the source of water. The threats and benefits of forest cover, deforestation, floods, etc., have national consequences. There has been mentioned by Shahid, the Secretary Forest, and Dr. Saima regarding having the need for a national approach and the need for some financial responses to this threat facing us, which has, again, I say, national consequences. And I want to link this up with Dr. Shazia just mentioned a few points. These days, we have the National Finance Commission has been notified by the federal government. All provinces are represented on that National Finance Commission. And this major role of the National Finance Commission is to allocate resources between the federating units and the federation. We have a vertical and a horizontal distribution. Now, climate change, Dr. Shazia is there. I hope she's listening to this and maybe she can play a role also in this. We allocate certain percentages of the national resource for various sectors. Currently, there is a great push for transferring further expenditure to the provinces and appropriating some revenues from the provinces to the federation. Now, this is, as far as forestry is concerned, the brunt of forest management and forest expenditure is faced and borne by KP, whereas the benefits accrue on a national level. So I think, to my mind, and I have put it into the thought process of the provincial government, where they are making their response into the National Finance Commission, I would suggest that the SDPI, Sarhad Conservation Network, Dr. Shazia from the Standing Committee, a percentage of the national resource before its vertical and horizontal distribution is decided upon, there should be a national response to that resource distribution specifically for climate change. We had our representative from Laya, he's bearing the consequences. Dr. Shazia is bearing the consequences. The expenditure is being met by KP. It is insufficient funds and insufficient resource available with KP. Having said that, look at the merged districts. The merged districts, it's been 6 years the merger has taken place, but the share of the merged district has not been transferred from the resources to the KP government. So further strain on KP government to bear the expense, which were previously being borne by the federal government, is now borne by the KP government. KP itself now is in the process of a war on terror, in which now the police, KP police is at the forefront. That expenditure is met by the province. So I think, having said that, my submission to this body is, especially to SDPI, it's a think tank at the national level. It's not just a think tank on academic subjects or on, this is the real threat and the real problem facing us. So with this, maybe a national fund for watershed management, a national fund for climate change, or something on that. We all need to get together, and our colleague from the Standing Committee on Climate Change who could play a key role on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We have among us a distinguished forester too. Dr. Muhammad Nasir is a former Inspector General of Forest. May I invite you to speak, sir, briefly on what you feel about the issue, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. Talking briefly on so many things is not possible. I will be talking on 1 or 2 points only. Talking about a national response to a provincial matter will never have teeth, no matter how much we talk, unless something is taken to the under the constitution, the constitutional body, the Council of Common Interest. Otherwise, forget any national policy or anything. It's a purely provincial subject. Now, the Rani Sahab, you have and very efficiently Rafiq Sahab has mentioned about the colonial era legislation and policy as and the needs of the empire, and now that we are in the post-colonial era and we are carrying forward. Where is the problem? Let's look at India. The Forest Act 1927 was formalized in 1935 under the Government of India Act. Therein, forest was placed as a purely provincial subject. And in 1947, we adopted it, India adopted it. The only one amendment to the 1927 Act they made is that was a constitutional amendment. They brought forest from the residual list to the concurrent list. So the federal government and the provincial government could interfere and make such good talks. And followed by a 1980 Forest Protection Act, and despite all the opposition of the mighty Indian Forest Service, it was the 2006 Forest Rights Act. No change has made. And I am seeing so many amendments being made here, so many conservation strategies being implemented and forgotten. And we keep on talking de novo. This is one thing we should keep in mind. And because you asked me to be brief, because I wear a hat of a anthropologist, not a forester, a turncoat forester. And to talk about handling these complex things, I would decompose whatever has been said and then deconstruct it and then get another picture. The picture which is very clear with the presence of Shahid Saab, the respectable secretary, who also heads the Pakistan Forest Institute. Now, don't think that blame the forest officers. Rafiq Saab has learned over years. I have learned over the years. We were trained on the same curriculum which was formalized by the colonial powers. We are not taught research papers or research in the forest. Rafiq Saab was probably the last batch who was the SFS course, the Superior Forest Service. And the historic mistake, which I firmly believe, was that training was converted into academia and a degree was being awarded. In India, they don't. It's training. And the insult over injury was that all the universities in Pakistan adopted the curriculum of the Pakistan Forest Institute. A training, officers training for tailored for the colonial era was adopted, and it is still, Dr. Lubna is here, and it's the same. So the things are not so simple. I would suggest to hold a series of such events, and don't forget to invite the other side of the story, the independent consultants who give pictures about the bright side of the billion tsunami project, and here we are listening to the not so bright side. So these are a series of events will make some impact. Thank you.
Thank you. We will have subsequent episodes, that's for sure, sir. This is the first one. There might have been a number of questions and things that have went unanswered You want to speak, sir? वो शायद जमान साहब को.
Yeah, Shahid Zaman sir, no way. Before Shafqat speaks, I'll say.
Yes, sir, please. Yes, sir. So I would like to invite our man of the match, Shahid Zaman sir. जी sir. ओके सर, पर मैं उनको वो दे दूं, वो दे ताकि जमान साहब बोले, उसके बाद बेशक आप बोल लीजिएगा. आई एम श्योर नाउ द डिजायर टू स्पीक इज मोर. जो टाइम एसडीपीआई ने हमें दिया है, इतनी कंजूसी से दिया है कि अब मैं कुछ कह भी नहीं सकता हूँ. खुद मेरे भी कपड़े छोटे पड़ गए सर. So I invite Shah Zamal sir to respond to some of the queries and also enlighten us the measures and the steps that he, besides, putting his foot down on many issues, the KP government is also doing some wonderful things. May I invite Shah Zamal sir to dilate on whatever is being done in the KP government.
Thank you very much. I'll quickly go through a list of actions that we are taking so that it gives you an idea about where we stand. Well, we already have spoken about where we stand, but where we intend to go towards. So I'll spell them out, and of course, then any questions would be most welcomed. And then there are experts sitting here, like Gaur Saab and of course Rafiq Saab and others, who can shed light on these matters and also guide us and help us in moving forward. So I'm just going to spell them out so that I don't take too much time on. So number one, we've done, and these are not in any order, so I'm just going to be randomly stating the steps. So for example, 10 billion tree tsunami / Green Pakistan program and BTAP program. The first one is the federal government and provincial government 50-50 financial sharing program, and the second one is a KP program. So under these programs, there are some changes that we have made. So for example, we already know that there's been a lot of emphasis right from the beginning on forest degraded areas regeneration. So that's number one. Just want to tell you that the thought is behind it, the actions have been taken, but more needs to be done, obviously. So that's one, which is the ANR program, which is the Assisted Natural Regeneration Program. So we're looking at a standing forest from that point of view. Then on the plantation point of view, which is also very important, we've gone into multi-cropping and only native plants. The IUC, I've had this opportunity to be now forest secretary in 3 provinces, GB, Punjab, and here. So we took a number of steps in Punjab, and then we have brought them here as well. That A, there's going to be only native plantations. B, there's going to be multi-cropping, and there's zones that have been defined by the IUCN for every district where it falls, and every division where it falls. So we're going to follow that. So that's one. We spoke about the triple D in the Punjab. We had banned triple D, felling of triple D. No dead, only the diseased one can go, but the dead and dry ones, that's not going to go. We haven't yet issued orders in that regard in the KP, but we're seriously thinking about that. We have to balance it with the whole idea. If you don't do triple D, which practically I'm told doesn't really happen, the green gets cut. So you have to balance the two. Then I've already spoken about range management. We've got the Asian Bank and the World Bank and our own ADB program, in which we've put our first, after a long time, a range management project. But the World Bank and Asian Bank are getting together, inshallah, and it's going to take us about a year to bring that program into the roll it out. But they're both going to be there. Then there's a serious judicial side problem. I took a count of the cases, and it's more than 11,000 cases. Since we have the executive magistracy looking after it, they have their hands full with other things, and cases are languishing, and cases are not heard, or cases are heard, but the required punishments are not given, to the extent that I had to issue an executive order 3 days ago that hence onwards, and something that the law provides, hence onwards, any vehicle, any kind of equipment, vehicle, etc. The main thing is the vehicle has to be confiscated. And the first one, we played an active part in going across to the judiciary and requesting them to please do this. That's our big problem. We've done that in Punjab, and it made a lot of difference. You've seen the results of the monitoring. The monitoring, unfortunately, was dormant for the last few years. I'm told for at least 3 years. No such order had been issued, but quietly, I think it just went dormant, and the harvesting was going on. And there's always good and bad happening. I mean, we are a developing country, and we have developing country problems. governance being the foremost of them. And unfortunately, I have to say, I think we should be pretty much open about these things, and corruption being right there at the center of our activities. So like poor governance and corruption, and we know what we have to face because of that. So as a result of this monitoring that we started after, let's say, a gap of 3 or 4 years, we found out that about 70% of the harvesting activity that had taken place, that was sound. So that's the good part. But 30% of it had major gaps. And that's what you've seen being written about in the newspapers. And even as we are happy about the fact that 70% was okay, the 30% is something we need to seriously look into, and the charge sheets are being made and they're being issued, and we have the complete support of the KP government in carrying out this task. And people have to be and must be held accountable at every level. So then you'll be happy to know that we're doing some tech injection worth 3 billion rupees worth of high-tech equipment for the monitoring of forests, another billion rupees worth of anti-fire equipment, some modern gadgetry, and so on and so forth. So that's another thing we're doing. Then we have these capacity issues where every time you talk to a forester, the young foresters or even the older ones, all they're talking about, the older ones are now more cognizant, but the moment sort of they come out of their training programs, all they're talking about is harvesting, because that's in my understanding, that's how the curriculums are built. We need to change that. We need to do more and more on ecology and so on and so forth. And so we're about to declare certain areas as environmentally sensitive areas under the environment law. So that's something that the forum should know. Then, as far as amendments in the Forest Act are concerned, we are we'd be very happy for us to be guided on that. We're taking the first amendment on the land part. Inshallah, that's going to come about in the next 30 days. We're going to present it to the Assembly. On the working plans, the forest working plans, we've taken a step. Let's see how good it, what good it does. We've taken that at this. I mean, this is an administrative step, but it's going to have an effect in the field. We've taken it out of the sphere of the forestry technical department, and we brought it to the secretariat, where we go through in detail, even though we may not necessarily be technically sound, but we have these technical committees that now look at them, and we use the minimalist formula, which is called the French formula. So we bring it down to below 5%. The first one I saw, it had 19%. I thought that was just unbelievable. So thereafterwards we developed this program. Then the Chief Minister has a great step that inshallah that we are working on. He has decided to give us 5.4 billion rupees for the acquisition of lands for wetlands and reserve forests, for buying lands and to declare them as reserve forests. That plus as much as government land can be made available to us. We've done that exercise largely for the south. As much land as can be made available to us, that's going to be given to us for forestation programs. On the FOTA side, we have a big gap. They are community held forests, but we need to have a law. At the moment, they have the Schedule 3, which has been extended there, but that's just for punishments, largely. We need to bring in laws where we can do more community engagement in the FOTA area. So we'd love to be guided on that. On the carbon front, some of us were there the other day. We're going to launch our RFP, the first carbon RFP, inshallah, by mid-September. And we had the first investor conference in Islamabad just 2 or 3 days ago. There's a timeline study that we've started, and we're going to request Durrani Sahab, of course, to help for the support from GIK. The P&D monitoring section has done some satellitic studies. They're going to share them with us, and we're going to approach the NDMA also. And our own labs are now being given another 50 to 60 crores to upgrade their capacity. And we're doing this for a 20-year period to find out where we were and where are we right now. And then we'd love to share that with you. On the agricultural land side point, because that point's been raised over here, KP government has banned any kind of agriculture land to be used for the development of societies. And we've now put that in our draft for wetlands as well. So wetlands, agri-lands are already there, and wetlands are going to become part of that. The most important thing that we've come across at the local level is the alternatives that can be provided. So, for example, if you look at a valley like Kumrat or any other such like valley, we need to give them the SRSP type 1 megawatt, 2 megawatt bijli, the Pan Bijli wala, because they're using, I mean, you'd be flabbergasted to hear that I'm told, and we did this calculation, household calculation, and we found out that there's about 1 million CFT being used within Kumrat. This is not smuggling, this is not selling, this is being used within Kumrat alone, one valley, So we need to, the moment you give them electricity, this 1 million will become 200,000. So things like this, that's why we formed the Kumrat working group, and we've also formed the Kalash working group, which is both are headed by the Forest Secretary, but it has all departments, MPAs, civil society people. We'd love yourselves to be part of it. SRSP is part of it. Then I already spoke about and such other alternatives, whether it's NTFPs or whether it's ecotourism. And as a matter of fact, on the ecotourism side, any guidance coming our way would be greatly welcomed, because we've just decided to hand over the 65-kilometer Monroe Trail to the tourism folks. We do it together, but we give it to a private sector party, and we give employment and business to the local communities. And there'll be others like that too, Oshu Forest and the Monroe Trail. On the NFC side, we've already, myself and our advisor on finance, Muzammil Saab, we had this discussion, and we've decided that this will be presented, what you pointed out, this will be presented, and I've given all the figures to Muzammil Saab in the NFC meetings. So this is on the cards. The more it's raised, the better Philip it gets, and the more support we get at KP. Then I already mentioned that UNDP, World Bank, ADB, and KFW are with us. KFW in a very big way under the BTASP program. BTASP 1 is going to complete in 2028. 2 is already close to signing, and we've already started talking about 3. So they have shown great confidence in the working of the Forest Department. So and we're moving ahead. On the PFI side, we've approved. The government has given us 10 crore rupees for carrying out a feasibility, and we've also put it on the ADB agenda to upgrade it and make it into a climate, environment, wildlife, and forest institute of a higher caliber and connect it to an international institution. So these are some of the things we're doing. And there are other things that we're working on. I think the feather in the cap for, and I come back to it, for the KP Forest Department is the recent uncovering of some of those activities that were done in the past. There's a six big issues that we have caught on to. You all know them. I don't think I need to name them here. But we are fast onto it. We have all the details. Committees have been formed. Presentations have been made either to committees, high-powered committees, or to Chief Minister Saab, or to the cabinet. And we are pursuing them. And inshallah, we will take them hopefully to the end that is required. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. While we are, enlightening and making us more wiser, I may on behalf of the SDPI and SCN, pay my compliments to Imtiaz Gul Saab, who's sitting among us. Our hero on the media, and you have been very openly speaking and supporting us in our fight against the people who wants to destroy and devastate this land and KP. Thank you very much, Imtiaz Gul Saab. May I just hand over the mic for a couple of minutes to Ali Gaur Saab, and then a couple of minutes to Shahzada Iftikhar Saab, please.
Yes, please. Please, yeah, if you give me just a few minutes. It's already here. Okay, it's on. It's on, okay. I would like to briefly go about what the points have been touched by our great mentor, Rafiq Khan. And then, if you permit, I will go about the governance, the present governance within our department, and which is the main cause of being the failure. So, please. Rafiq Khan touched upon the nature regeneration. The nature regeneration is a big issue. Yes, it is a big issue, but it has been properly looked after in the Billion Tree Tsunami. And
presently, I just want to give you this news that one of the regeneration at a site in KP is world #1, I think, sir. Come like that, something like that. And this regeneration has ensured that if the regeneration is coming from a crop of Devdar, so it will produce Devdar. If it is coming from Cheed, it will produce Cheed. Sustainable forest harvesting, most of the forests of KP are owned by local people. So you cannot close the door on it. There will be a big agitation, and they will revolt against you. So there should be some way out to give them in the form of harvesting, to give them like a management plan. But your management plan should be perfect enough so that it is not being misused. Then the protected forests are overburdened with rights. Protected forests are overburdened with rights. These are almost owned by the local people. If you withdraw this facility from them and give it another shape, there will be a big revolt. You remember the agitation that the deer people have already, yeah. And forest law misuse laws have been amended from time to time, and especially when all the forest laws of the English era, they were to be amended. In 1999 and 2000, I was in Ahmedabad and I was a part of this. We were told by our seniors that the British says that, look, trees are for the people. People are not for the trees. So you should amend your law in a way that people are also compensated and they don't go in revolt. Yeah. And 1 billion trees, it is absolutely not possible to plant 1 billion in 3 years. But how it has been done? I had a lot of issues with it. So much so that I left it. I wrote to the chief secretary that I am not working on this project. There were other issues, we can talk about that some other time. And I went to Pakistan Forest Institute. But actually, around about 39 crore has come from the regeneration, and only 24 crore of plants have been planted, while some of it has come from seed sowing, and the others were planted by the farmers on their field. So this is something about that. And sorry, I'm not opposing you, and please don't respond to me, okay? Rafiq Saab. Yeah. One thing. Can I go and touch upon the problems in our managerial system, in our governance, and
In the fewest words possible.
in department? There. Okay. Yeah. There are 3 chiefs in KP Forest now. One chief is looking after the Hazara, the other chief is looking after Malakan, and the third chief, who is known as HAD, he is the man chief sitting at headquarters. He's of the head of the attached department. But in reality, these 2 chiefs are supposed to report to him, to the HAD. But no, it is not happening. Every chief is now independent, and the whole system has been misused. The ACR of Chief Hazara should be written by Chief of Headquarters, HAD. But in reality, no. That facility has also been taken away from the Chief Headquarters. And there is another thing, 18 amendment. The posting transfers have gone to the minister. Grade 17 is posted by secretary. grade 18 and above are all posted by the minister. So if you give me a redundant staff, if you give me a 3D staff, dead dying disease staff to the chief, how he will work? He is unable to work in this environment. So we have to look after this. Forest is now a very fragile and very precious. It's a glass. It has to be handled with care. So at least the minister should be out of this post and transfer issue so that we improve the governance. And the line of command should be straightened. There should be a chief. There is also a department, now a full department of wildlife. And there are 2 chiefs sitting in wildlife also. Yeah, now two chiefs sitting over there also. While the habitat is the same area is governed by the foresters and the wildlife people. And there are conflicts. Wildlife people cannot work wholeheartedly, while the forest department people cannot wholeheartedly. So this conflict should also be solved and should be looked into. If they can merge in one department and they can have HADs at alternative times, so it should something like that. In this scenario, there is only one post left, and that is Secretary Forest. Sir, you are the man. You are the man looking after this whole process of management of the forest. Sir, if some Khudatar secretary like Shah Zaman Saab, if he comes, he can make this department. Or if a man like the so-called mastermind of Billion Tree, he comes, he has broken it and he can break it right there. So, yeah. So this should be looked after, that we post somebody who is sincere enough with this department, with the environment, and with these trees. Forest Department has been working with all the expatriates. We have been working for 30 years with in watershed management with all the donors. We had been working for 15 years with Germans, and they were so happy. And every 5 years they were renewing their donations, their grants. We had been working for 15 years in KIDP Kalam, and the Swiss were so generous and were so impressed that they gave us donations, gave us grants every 5 years. So if there is some secretary who can make this department, who can repair all the damages that has been done, that makes the department, and you go forward. And if somebody like the Billion Tree Tsunami man, and he comes, and there are the scandals, the Makanyal scandal, there is a demarcated and undemarcated Guzara. What about demarcated and undemarcated Guzara? The working plan prepared in early 80s has been signed by the Commissioner Peshawar and by DC Hazara. So what to talk about demarcated and undemarcated Guzara? Now DC Haripur says he has only 2,000 acres left with him. The rest of the Guzara has vanished from the papers. So almost 11,000 acres of Guzara in Makanyal is at stake. And it has given rise to another big issue. 6 lakh acres of Guzara in Hazara. Now everybody claims that 60% is not demarcated. So give us all these demarcated areas back to the people, and let there be hotels and motels and roads and farmhouses. So that has also become at stake now. And then there is Dino Valley issue. Dino Valley, how can you have your commercial project in a forest? And then there are a very faulty demarcation in Galyat. Most of the area, hundreds of acres of Galyat
has been taken over
Can I, sir?
by the real estate.
Can I request, sir?
Yeah.
So there are people breathing on my neck, and can we just wrap it up in a couple of words, please, sir?
Yeah, okay. Okay, then there are timber scams. We have already talked about that. Then there is Arandu, then there is this wood lots and all these issues. So I have a few recommendations. If you allow me, KK.
Sure, sir.
There are 5 recommendations, one liner. Can you allow me? Okay. Okay. So my recommendation would be, please clear the command channel, the line of command for the HAD, for the chief sitting at Peshawar, number 1. Okay. Then the Secretary's office is filled with PMS and CSS officers. Why not a DS technical, and why not an additional secretary technical sitting right there with Secretary Saab? And in 18th amendment, the minister should totally be out of this posting transfer issue. He is not taking the any responsibility. And I would like this house and all the forums like this to have a resolution. Please mark that person who has taken us to all these scandals. Mark him, whoever he is, reconfirm him. Everybody knows who was that. Reconfirm him. And there should be a resolution. Please take him to task, bring him to justice. And one thing more. Section 1, the last one. Section 112 says forest officers can be jailed. If he indulge in trading within the forest business. So Secretary Forest is not a forest officer in our Forest Act. Make him an officer. If the Secretary Forest should also be a forest officer, so that you can jail him. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Shahzada Sahab, instead of having a talk, can we have a recommendation from your side on the LNG?
Very good running for Tariq Sahab because of what they had done earlier for the in front of the green bench as far as the SNG which transfer because I'm from Chadra and Arandu Gold, it's now become in the family issue. Yeah, it's a burden. But the first time my father made me write a letter to the governor, if Hussein Shah was general. So that was in 2002. And now we have lost 25% of forest cover in our border. So, we are facing a very big problem. I was MA from Chakra. That's from 2013. And we managed to get SNG airplane based parts. They have been installed in Gilgit. They have been installed in Muzaffarabad. But somehow, unfortunately, the ones meant for Chakra, Grosh, and Ayun, this area covers almost 2/3 of Chakra's population. So, what we are suggesting that, in future, any policy should have, should look deeper into the carbon credits part, as well as, on the national level, how do we arrive at the pricing mechanism? How do we arrive at the pricing mechanism so that the prices is, the price of the bill is shouldered by all the consumers across Pakistan, because it's going to be a very minimal impact on anybody as far as the pricing is concerned, just like on the petroleum prices. So fuel would, the SNG air index plants, they call for making fuel wood more expensive than gas. Currently, gas is expensive. Fuel wood is very cheap. So people are using fuel wood, and we have 1,000 years old deodar trees and thousands of years old oak trees being chopped down. They are consumed, as somebody was pointing out that the consumption in the homes alone. So it's a very vast number. So if you want to really combat climate change, you go for opt for the even from the
standpoint of the provincial government, I think the provincial government should also put, weight behind the SNG air permits part because you are protecting forests which have been existing for thousands of years. So you have to look for innovative ideas, and I hope my point of coming here was to highlight the fact that the provincial government should also be, because the plants were cancelled by the federal government in 2019, and Advocate Ali Durrani and Tariq Saab, they pleaded the case before the the Green Bench, but unfortunately the plants are still not installed. But they managed to at least get the auction of the plants as well as the land, stop. So we have another long way to go, but still. I would say more than 10 million, maybe more than that amount has gone over the last 25, 30 years. And if we could allow the forest to be depleted at this speed, I don't think that will start. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. असल में अब क्या करें, मुसीबत यह है कि वो जो मैंने 2 सेशन क्रैश कर दिए सर। 1 मिनट के लिए बोलेंगे सर, क्योंकि आप ही रह गए स्टेबल पे, ये जामी साहब रह गए, आप रह गए और नसीम साहब रह गए।
अच्छा जी 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 मोहम्मद इब्राहिम खान फ्रॉम WWF पाकिस्तान। मैं रफीक साहब के साथ एग्री करूंगा क्योंकि हमारे जो नेचुरल फॉरेस्ट है उसमें डिग्रेडेशन हो रही है। आई लेड द रेड प्लस जो NFMS का प्रोसेस है उसमें मैंने मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ क्लाइमेट चेंज की तरफ से हमने स्टडी की है और उसमें ये साबित हुआ है कि हमारे नेचुरल जो इकोसिस्टम है दे आर बीइंग डिग्रेडेड रैपिडली, बहुत तेजी से। और जो चीज मेच्योर फॉरेस्ट कर सकती है वो हमारे जो है ना जो यंग जो प्लांटेशन है वो नहीं कर सकती। इसके लिए जो हमारे जितनी भी नेचुरल फॉरेस्ट है दे आर मोस्टली जो गवर्नमेंट ओन्ड है, दे आर मोस्टली मैनेज बाय द वर्किंग क्लाइंट्स इन KP और इन पंजाब आल्सो। और अभी GB में भी ट्राई हो रहा है, लेकिन जो हमारे अभी जो मैनेजमेंट प्लान बन रहे हैं उसमें सेक्रेटरी साहब को मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि बहुत कम लोग फॉरेस्ट में जाते हैं, डेटा रिलायबल नहीं होता। एक दूसरे, जब इसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन होती है वो भी रिलायबल नहीं होती, क्योंकि एक जगह हार्वेस्टिंग ड्यू होती है, हार्वेस्टिंग कहीं और से होती है। तो ये उसमें फॉल्ट है, उसमें मसले हैं। इसके लिए जो मैं रिकमेंड करूंगा सर, इस सेक्रेटरी साहब से मैं टाइम भी लेना चाहूंगा, इस पे डिटेल डिस्कशन भी करेंगे। ले। इसमें सर चाहिए कि ये ट्रांसपेरेंट तरीके से और रोबस्ट तरीके से ये मैनेजमेंट प्लान बने और इसकी मॉनिटरिंग हो, थर्ड पार्टी मॉनिटरिंग, थर्ड पार्टी वैलिडेशन। जिस तरह रेड कार्बन मार्केट्स में है कि एक कार्बन में मार्केट में मतलब एक फॉरेस्ट तब वो होता है, एक प्रोजेक्ट तब होता है जब वो थर्ड पार्टी उसको वैलिडेट करे। जब ये बने तो थर्ड पार्टी जाए वेरीफाई करे कि ये डेटा सही लिया गया, ये मैनेजमेंट प्लान सही बन गया है। जब वो इम्प्लीमेंट हो तो हर तीसरे चौथे साल इसकी मॉनिटरिंग हो कि जो कटाई होनी थी वो सही जगह से हुई है और जो वहां से वो जो टिम्बर एक्सट्रैक्ट होना था वो उसी तरह है। थैंक यू। तो ये मैं थोड़ा सा बस मेरी गुजारिश है। So we close the meeting and now I would like to invite शफकत काका खिल साहब to say a few words। नहीं, उन्होंने पूरा वो कर। Would like to invite शफकत काका खिल साहब to say a few words। नहीं, उन्होंने और खत्म करना है, फिर मैं सर को रुकूंगा, वो सारा कुछ हो रहा है। जी सर, जी।
So I have a very pleasant task, and that is basically to thank all of you who have come, and particularly the 9-10 people who have made contribution, very serious contribution. And Shahid Zaman, of course, deserves double thank you because he not only made an excellent initial presentation, but also took the trouble of noting the submissions of people and then responding to them. So the other point that I want to make is how happy I am with the cooperation between the Sustainable Conservation Network and SDPI. You make SDPI a more meaningful think tank for national affairs. So I would like personally and on behalf of the board, I would like to see even greater cooperation in future. But most grateful that you took the trouble of coming all the way from Peshawar and sacrificing your time and effort and resources to be with us. And I hope the very rich recommendations that have been made, SDPI staff will compile them, and we will make sure that our policymakers as well as our media receive those recommendations. So thank you very much, and it's my honor to ask Tariq Banouri to make the very final remarks.
Thank you, and Arizal. You know, I'm not going to speak very much. I just want to say three things. You know, I am the founder of this institute, SDPI, and as soon as we founded, this is one of the key issues that we took up. And our board member, the illustrious GM Khatak Saab, was our leader in this regard. My main concern is that it's now 33 years later, and my honest view is we are still talking about the same thing, right? I mean, I was hoping that I mean, yes, we have new data, yes, we have new laws, but basically we are talking about the same thing, and the degradation is going on. At our first meeting, I remember somebody made a quip, Keji. They said, government of Pakistan never solves any problems. It only gets tired of them. And this is basically what has been happening. We never solved a problem. We got tired of them. Phir floods aate hain, phir hum kehte hain ki wo kare. Now, I mean, the presentations that were made today were excellent. I mean, Rafiq, of course, you know, brilliant. We need to rethink the issue of the rethink policy, rethink objectives, reverse the bad laws, forest settlements, but most importantly, you said integrity and leadership of the institution. And this is something which I think Ali Gaur Sahab,
Yes,
yeah,
Ali Gaur.
I think fantastic, very, very well said. And before you, Shakil Durrani said exactly the same thing. कि अगर आपके पास department नहीं है, तो आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते. And in fact, you know, a lot of comments were addressed to the secretary. I would probably say my reading of the whole thing is that you need a forest department and a forest secretary only. I mean, you need a provincial department in the secretariat and a forest secretary only if you don't have the forest machinery. अगर आपके पास machinery हो तो फिर इसकी हमें जरूरत नहीं होती. आपकी machinery नहीं है. आपने लोग आपको नहीं recruit कर रहे, but most importantly आपने उनको independence नहीं दी. And this is, I think, और ये by the way सिर्फ शकील साहब ने नहीं, नासिर ने भी exactly यही बात की, ठीक है? Now the main thing, and secretary साहब ये आपके लिए challenge. देखें आपने forest department को build कर. You have basically to build it up so that it is autonomous, it is independent, and it takes its responsibility seriously. Everything else that we do around it, finance ले आते हैं, laws ले आते हैं, tribunals ले आते हैं. It is all Hamlet without the prince. जब तक prince नहीं होगा, कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते आप. उसको आपने build करना. हमारे यहाँ मसला ये हो गया है कि सारी institutions collapse कर गई, with the result कि हम foundations हमारी नहीं है, हम ऊपर वो बनाते जा रहे हैं कि अगर ये नहीं है तो चलो एक और ट्रिब्यूनल बना दो, ये नहीं है तो एक और बना दो. यार वो असल चीज जो है उसको तो आप strengthen करें. And this is really the main point. The main point is, maybe I can say something from the literature. John Maynard Keynes मशहूर economist है. वो ये कहता है कि आप किसी भी well functioning system को देखें, it is full of autonomous, independent institutions. They keep functioning regardless of whoever comes into power. वहाँ पे अंग्रेज था, कंजर्वेटिव्स आ जाएं, लिबरल्स आ जाएं, लेबर आ जाए, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, आपके रेलवेज उसी तरह चलेंगे और टाइम पे चलेंगे, आपकी यूनिवर्सिटियां उसी तरह चलेंगी, टाइम पे चलेंगी। हमारे यहाँ वो सारी इंस्टीट्यूशंस खत्म हो गई, हम उनको ऑटोनमस नहीं होना देते, और हमने उनको जो प्राइवेट interests हैं, which in a lot of cases they are not only private interests, they are criminal interests, we made them captive to that. आपने उनको उसमें प्रोटेक्शन प्रोवाइड करनी है और उनको बिल्डअप करना है, राइट? एंड दिस इज रियली ए चैलेंज फॉर यू सेक्रेटरी साहब। ये आप कुछ भी कर लें, आप ऊपर से ये लॉज चेंज कर लें, कुछ नहीं होगा unless you build that institution and it is protected. I have found, I mean, I remember the time when I was a junior officer, जिस वक्त ये destruction हो रही, and then we suddenly found that all the criminals actually wanted to be the head of the forest departments. Why? Because they wanted to cut down the forest, and if anybody who stood up to them, usko transfer kar diya, usko punish kar diya and all. You know, we understand this is the way things have been going on. Now we need to make sure that it is protected and that the tenure of people is protected, their services are protected, the institutions are protected, and they are the ones who make the decisions, not the people sitting at the top. That's one. My last point also is, I have looked at a lot of the laws in this country, and what I always found is that the original law was always the best. And one reason is कि उसकी amendment इसलिए होती है कि वो जो corrupt interest होते हैं, उनका interest होता है कि इसको change करो, जो अच्छे इंटरेस्ट होते हैं उनका इंटरेस्ट नहीं होता कि इसको चेंज करो, राइट? तो इफ यू मेक अ लॉ इन इनोसेंस, लेट इट स्टे देयर। ये मेरे ख्याल में अली गौहर साहब ने कहा कि 1927 का लॉ सबसे बेहतर, भाई उसी को वापस ले। नहीं, उसने नासिर ने कहा कि जो इंडिया में चेंज नहीं आया। हमारे यहाँ जो जब भी हमें पता होता है कि जी इसके ऊपर हमने कब्जा करना है, हम उसका लॉ चेंज कर देते हैं, राइट? It's basically just the kabza groups changing the laws. So, you know, this is as a community we need to say कि यार ये क्या laws को क्यों आप change कर रहे हैं? Don't change the laws. Let the department handle, वो उनको regulations के through handle करें। ये बार-बार laws को change करना, ये this is not good. But the most important thing, which is really our governance problem, and I think Shakil is the best person to, कि यार हर जगह पे एक होता है कि आपका political system जो है वो मतलब है या laws बनाए या policy वो करे, but the implementation is protected from it. ये कहीं नहीं हो सकता कि आप जो है सिर्फ ऊपर से कोई कानून बना दिए, नीचे कोई implementation authority नहीं है, और लोगों को इंसाफ उस वक्त मिलेगा कि जब नीचे के जज इंसाफ देना चाहेगा। ऊपर से आपने कुछ भी कानून बना दिया, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। We need to have a forest department which is professional, which is independent, which is autonomous, which is protected, and which is competent. देखना वो उसको आपने रिक्रूट भी नहीं, मैं बता दूं, मैं SDPI में था, अबान and I were very good friends, अबान काबरा जी, IUCN. We told Khatak साहब, we said कि जी we want the next GM Khatak, कौन है? And after a lot of search, you know, forest department में बहुत problems थे because the level of competence was not high. We found this person. Right? I remember telling Aban कि I think we found the next GM Khatak. She picked him up and you know, brought him into the environmental field and so on. So we actually need to start building up the capacity of those institutions. Recruitment उसकी high करें। हमारे ज़माने में लोग जाते नहीं थे, you know, बहुत थोड़े से पागल होते हुए चले जाते थे। अब तो काफी लोग environment पे interested हैं, जाना चाहते हैं। आप उनके लिए you know, system produce करें ताकि the best people come into this system. But most importantly, protect the institution, protect their tenures, make sure that they are the ones who take the decisions, not the political bosses sitting there who make it for reasons which we need not go into. But I think ये SDPI अगर आप ये सारी चीजों को conclude करके एक वो बना लें, तो maybe some people would benefit from it. Otherwise, I can tell you, I mean, I don't look my age, so 30 years later, I'll be back here. And we will still be talking about exactly the same thing. And let's not do that. Thank you.
Sir, you look fantastic with your new look, sir. किसी ने नोट ही नहीं किया। Just a couple of quick things because हमने skip किया question answer को, recommendations को. What we would do is that consolidating कर लेंगे जो expert input मिली है आज, और craft करेंगे clear actionable recommendation on governance, community engagement, finance and institutional frameworks that can be submitted to policymakers, and then we follow it up that whether the recommendations have been actually considered. We make a resolution today and then we pass it on that Shahid Zaman Saab would be Secretary Forest till his retirement. And in keep. And in
Even after retirement.
So because the Bunair episode was actually a biopsy of the system, it tells us the cancer, it is cancerous, the KP Forest Department and the resource is cancerous. And we have got the best surgeon and the best doctor in the business. Shahid Zaman Sahib is actually a good cancer doctor too. So, so as we conclude, let us all recall that today's consultation was not just about diagnosing the problems. We all know them, but they need to be actually told to everyone. We need to actually say it every time, say it 1,000 times so that everyone hears it. The trick lies in saying it everywhere, at every time. Even when we go to bed, we need to actually recall what we say about the things and about charting a path forward. And this can only be done if we give our best recommendations, and then we have a department and a leader who can actually take them seriously and consider them for input into the policy, investing into the policy. The consensus is clear. Ecological decline is a national climate security issue, and coordinated action is no longer option. It is urgent. अब ऑप्शन खत्म हो गया, आपके पास टाइम नहीं है. We just have 5 years, 4 months and just 1 day more to be actually in a mood to do something. And next 2 years we are going to touch the irreversible greenhouse gases levels, which were actually predicted to be expected to be touched by 2030. 2 साल के अंदर अंदर हम वो touch कर लेंगे. As we close, let me emphasize, ecological decline is not just about trees or rangelands. It is about climate security, survival, and our children's future. Now, on behalf of the SDPI and SCN, I'm a real thank you, extend gratitude to all the speakers, participants, and partners. And let's make a resolve, like we made a resolve that Shahid Zaman Sahib would be with us till his retirement. And even beyond. He is son of the soil. He has actually constructed a house in Lahore. We pull him back and we sell that house so that he can come back to Peshawar. The point for all of us is that are we actually deciding to have a decent future for our children? So I've been telling it on every forum that we are their mujriman. We are the criminals who have actually done bad for them. We're not leaving a good world for them. So let's actually at this fag end of our lives and careers make a meaningful contribution, make their future a little bit more secure that we can. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. And I'm so thankful to the stalwarts and the stars and my seniors who have taken out time and be with us. Adil Khan, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Ali Jan, thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much, all of you, sir. Thank you.
Which Baran the